Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto trained by a retired ninja. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by GMAN391 and link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. One small choice. Gotta run, gotta hide where there's always a way out. Where is one? The young Naruto Uzumaki was running for his life. It had been a brilliant prank, if he did say so himself. Infiltrating the Inuzuka compound and dyeing all of their dogs in neon orange was not easy. Of course, actions have consequences. In this case, the entirety of the Inuzuka clan chasing him in order to return the favor was the consequence. Looking around, the blonde boy saw a dilapidated building that looked ready to be condemned. In another world, Naruto chose not to run inside, instead continuing his way to the Hokage Tower. We are not talking about that world. In this one, Naruto ran inside to escape and ran headfirst into an old man. The child found himself pushed up against a wall with a knife to his throat 20 seconds later. Easy Rikimaru, it's just a kid. A voice spoke from the other side of the room. Sorry Jin, you know how it is. The man known as Rikimaru said. He was an older man, probably in his mid-50s, bald and short, his face and arms were littered with scars. Right, because everyone feels threatened by a 10-year-old kid. Another man said with a laugh. This man was the same age as Rikimaru, but taller with a simple grey ponytail and a large leaf tattoo coiling about his arm. Shut up Shin. The scarred man said good-naturedly, letting the boy down. Hey, kid, you want to explain yourself? The man known as Jin asked. Huge was a good word to describe him, standing at 6'6" with a bodybuilder's limbs, the man wore a pair of glasses and had an unruly mop of black hair that seemed to defy gravity. I, played a prank on the Inuzukas. The whiskered boy answered, long ignored survival instincts, screaming that telling the truth was the only way to survive. Really? Managed to prank the Inuzukas? Mind if I ask what it was? The huge man asked with a chuckle. I managed to turn all their dogs orange. Naruto said, smiling at the memory of the dogs running around. That's pretty good for a brat in the academy. Guys, we should train him, you know, create that ultimate shinobi people used to talk about when we were younger. Shin said after wiping away a tear. Shin, do you know how to train someone? Rikimaru asked cynically. Can't be that hard. The gray-haired man said with a shrug. Well, can't say I don't want something to do. Jin. Kid's got potential, no doubt about it. But it depends on the boy. Kid, who do you think we are? The bespectacled man asked. You guys have the same look the Hokage Jiji get sometimes. You've all been there when the wars happened. I don't know who you are, but I know you were all some of the best. The blonde said after some thought. Good answer. We were some of the first Anbu, and yeah, we've been through the mill. We learned how to fight and kill at the tail end of the first war. We killed our way to victory with Nidaime in the second war. We did it again in the third war behind Yondaime and Sandaime. We were squad 13 and if you want it we will train you. Jin said considering the answer. That'd be nice. I don't really get a lot of help at the academy. But why train me? I'm the dead last. The blue-eyed boy said with a sigh. Kid, you managed to infiltrate one of the most difficult targets in Konoha. Only the Hyuga compound, Anbu, and the Hokage Tower are harder. So you have some talent, now why do you say you're dead last? The scarred man said slowly warming up to the boy. I fail almost all of my academic tests and have trouble with the physical ones I'm barely scraping by. Naruto said with a look that said he was pulling teeth by telling them this. Bullshit, academics mean nothing on the field and your physical problems comes from not having anyone to help train you. As we said, you have potential. Now Ricky here is the Taijutsu specialist of the team. You and he are going to be playing for the next 6 months or however long it takes to get you ready. After that, we'll start training you in other things. Be here tomorrow at 5 a.m. The huge leader of the group said. Hi, Jin sensei. The blonde boy said happily and ran off. Naruto didn't know what made him trust the old men and their offer of training. Just something in him, the fighter that would always come to fore later in his life, demanded it. It demanded to learn and grow. Naruto had never been one for deep thought, he trusted his instincts, as flawed as they might be. Jin sensei, eh? I think I like that. The old man said with a chuckle. You sure we're doing the right thing? The ever-pessimistic Rikimaru asked. Yeah, we are. The kid is strong enough to survive this long. Strong enough that he didn't break the way most people would. It's a crime not to teach him how to use that. Shin answered. Something to that Shin. Not many could still know how to laugh after his kind of childhood. The Jinjutsu user agreed. You've got a point. Now the question is, when did you get so philosophical? The scarred man asked. I occasionally read the stuff Jin leaves on the table. Shin answered with a shrug. The trio gave a slight chuckle at that. Alright, so I have a free hand training him. The bald man said with a predatory smile. Try not to cripple the kid, alright? Jin said, exasperated with his friend. Fine, but first things first, we have to get rid of the damn jumpsuit. The short man intoned. Good idea, want to dress him up like Yondaime? Shin asked only half jokingly. Are you trying to get the kid killed? The huge man asked. Sometimes he didn't know why he put up with these two. No, I'm thinking tiger coloring. The scarred man said, surprising both of the others. Rikimaru hated fashion or clothes shopping. What? Shin said, his tone still shocked. Kid likes orange, so we combine that in black and we can give him some decent camouflage. The bald man was nothing if not practical. Alright, I'll go talk to Mori. The bespectacled man said with a laugh. The next morning, Naruto had no idea what to expect. He'd never had someone who actively wanted to train him before. The teachers never helped, so he had high hopes. Those hopes were quickly dashed when his new teacher said, "First rule of training with us, no more of those orange jumpsuits." Why? Why did no one understand the sheer awesomeness of orange? It was bright, it was happy, and no one would ever forget you. Besides, these jumpsuits were cheap enough to afford, everything else cost too much. Why, Rikimaru-sensei? Orange is cool. The blonde youth shouted. Be that as it may, you are learning to be a ninja. Ninjas don't, or at least shouldn't, dress in bright colors that scream kill me. However, you can still wear orange, just not as bright. Think tiger. The bald man said, suppressing a groan. Damn, this kid was hyper. Tiger? The whiskered boy said, blinking in confusion. Tigers are black and orange and blend into the jungle really well. So Rikimaru said. Gotta get him to start using that thing between his ears. He's not stupid, not if he can survive this long, but I don't think he's used to thinking things through, almost as if someone decided to fuck with his mind. Stowing that idea for future consideration, Rikimaru watched as the thought process visibly took place on Naruto's face. So I can have the awesomeness of orange and still be stealthy? The blonde said after a moment. Yes, don't worry, Jin will take you to our supply guy after training today. The bald man said, shaking head. They had their work cut out for them, that's for sure. Will he let me buy from his store? Naruto was cautious when it came to stores. They almost never let him in, and if they did, they charged him so much that he couldn't even buy anything. Mori's been through nearly as much as we have, he knows that you're no demon. The scarred man said with a sigh. It was peacetime, why did a kid have to go through this shit? So you know why I'm called a demon? The whiskered boy asked, picking up on the implications. Rikimaru was of two minds. One side said tell him the truth and damn the consequences. The other side said A, it's against the law to tell anyone the truth, and B, Naruto needed a bit more maturity before he could be told. So compromise, give the boy a place to start, but don't tell him outright. I do, but I can't tell you. No one can, it's the law. But if you're willing to work, you can probably figure it out. Remember. What do demons and your birthday have to do with each other? And how does one kill a demon anyway? That's all I'm going to tell you. The bald man said, happy that he had managed to find a way that allowed him to keep some pride in himself and help the boy. That isn't a lot to go by, Rikimaru-sensei. The blonde said with a frown. Well, I've got to get you to use your head as something besides a rock. Think of it as motivation. The short man said with a chuckle. Hi, Rikimaru-sensei. Naruto said, scowling. His head was more than just a rock. Thank you very much. Good, now let's see your taijutsu. The scarred man said with a grin. Naruto, taking that as his cue, began to go through the academy taijutsu katas. Or at least he thought he did, only to have Rikimaru stop him midway. That was just horrible. Who the hell taught you to fight? The short man said with an expression somewhere between disgust and horror. The boy's stances were all off, his punches were wrong, and his kicks weren't effective. Izuki-sensei said that these were special stances and moves, so I'd be stronger. The blonde said, confused, he knew these stances were right. Naruto, take everything you ever learned about taijutsu and forget it. Rather than try to fix that mess, we are going to start with the basics and teach you something more suited for you. Remind me to go kick this Mizuki's ass. That was just a blasphemy against all that is good and holy about taijutsu. Rikimaru said, unconsciously clenching and unclenching his fist. I didn't think I sucked that bad. The whiskered boy said, a bit disturbed. Naruto, if I give you a hammer and tell you to cut a tree down, is it your fault that you can't cut the tree down? No. It's my fault for giving you a fucking hammer instead of a saw. Come on, I'm going to teach you my own personal style. Learned it from a crazy ass bastard named Joe, always muttering about the Tao, whatever that is. The scarred man said. I am going to teach this boy everything there is to know about fighting, and when I'm done he will be able to kill anyone, including that bastard teacher. Where do we start, Rikimaru-sensei? The whiskered boy asked seriously, he loved training. At the beginning, boy, like all good things. Taijutsu as we know it began before the jutsus, before the flashy techniques, before the magic sky swords. All we had was taijutsu and our wits, using that we still managed to kill each other regularly. Taijutsu evolved, became formal, and people started practicing unique styles that require fancy blood limits and training methods. I don't need any of that, and neither will you. At its core Taijutsu isn't about fairness or grace, it's about beating the living shit out of the other guy and killing him. People say it's a great honor to die for your country, that's bullshit. Honor comes from making the other guy die for their country, you understand. The short man regarded his student levelly. So, it's all about killing the other guy. Naruto said in a tone usually reserved for discovering a new law of physics. That's right, boy. Now let's begin. The scarred man said as he began showing Naruto how to move. 4 hours later and an exhausted Naruto stumbled into class. No longer wearing the bright jumpsuit he had become known for, Naruto looked changed. Mori did good work, the blonde now wore a rusty orange jacket with black stripes to break it up. Combined with a black pants and a blue undershirt, and Naruto looked like a serious shinobi. "Naruto, what's up with the new clothes?" Kiba asked. He didn't like the guy, but he didn't have the heart on the village had against him either. "Friend of a friend gave them to me," the blonde said with a sad smile. Jin had been dead serious that he tell no one about Mori or his new senseis. "Always keep your true skills secret. No one expects the average guy or dead last to be a threat. That advantage is something to hold on to," had been Jin's words. "Yeah right, stop trying to look cooler than Sasuke-kun," the pink-haired girl known as Sakura screeched. It could have been because of the training, it could have been the newfound acceptance he had gained from his senseis and Mori, it could have been random, but for whatever reason something snapped in Naruto. He wasn't going to put up with their bullshit anymore, they were supposed to be training to be fucking ninjas, and she was screaming about him trying to be cooler than Sasuke. He, Naruto Uzumaki, was going to become Hokage, he was going to seriously train. He was training in the old school, the school that wasn't about coolness or flashy jutsus, but about killing people. Suddenly his crush on Sakura seemed pointless, and beneath him, it didn't help him improve as a ninja, it wasn't going anywhere, so it was time to cut that part out. "Shut the hell up, Sakura," the blue-eyed boy said with an ice-cold voice. Hearing a pin drop was normally just an expression, but in this case it was a literal truth. No one could believe that Naruto, of all people, had told off someone, especially his longtime crush. Hope surged in one girl's heart while rage did in another. "What did you just say to me?" the green-eyed girl said, fists trembling. "I said shut up, I don't have the patience to deal with your screeching right now." The blue-eyed boy met the angry girl's stare without a flinch. "You're going to pay for that, Naruto." Sakura screamed and launched a punch towards the blonde. Despite his exhaustion, Naruto reacted by pulling a kunai, dodging and holding the blade against the girl's throat. "Sakura, I'm done chasing you, I'm done fighting with Sasuke, so do both of us a favor and leave me alone," he said viciously. Sakura froze, she had always been able to hit Naruto, and he would take it. So what changed? "Well, at least he's not chasing me anymore, even if this new Naruto seems ready to kill me for some reason," the pink-haired girl reasoned, never once wondering whether or not the blonde boy had reason to dislike her. "Naruto, get outside," the teacher said, snapping out of her daze at the Jinchuruki's antics. But Naruto tried to defend himself. "Now. And be glad we don't suspend you for this," the woman snarled. The class was perplexed, yes, Naruto had gone a bit far, but Sakura had thrown the first punch, and they were training to be ninja, and Naruto was obviously having an off day. So then why punish just Naruto? Sakura was equally at fault for provoking people for no reason, and pride was a good way to get someone killed. "Kagome-sensei, shouldn't Sakura be punished too? She did start it after all," asked a perplexed Shikamaru. It was so troublesome, Naruto was hated by the village for no real reason. Yes, he pranked people, but that didn't explain the hate his classmate experienced. Being a genius, Shikamaru was used to figuring things out with ease, but this puzzle eluded him, and it was annoying. No. That little monster probably provoked her in the first place. It should know its place, the teacher said after a moment. "Yeah, thing is, that Naruto isn't an it, he's a boy just like the rest of them." "Tell me, is Mizuki here?" a scarred man said, having arrived in the doorway. "And you are?" the teacher said, raising an eyebrow. "Call me Ricky, I've taken a liking to that boy and wish to talk to his taijutsu instructor," the bald man said reasonably. He understood that most people hated the boy, they were stupid, but they did have cause, at least in their own minds, to hate Naruto. "You know what he is?" the woman said with a hiss. "I do, and I remind you that it is not your place to talk about the boy. Now where is Mizuki?" The short man sometimes wondered why he and the others had fought so damn hard for these people. "Don't know why you like the boy, but Mizuki should be in room 324. The teacher said with a shrug, "Not a problem." 10 minutes later an inhuman scream rocked the academy. Rikimaru had found Mizuki and both of them being alone, the old taijutsu master had educated Mizuki about why you didn't sabotage people and ruin perfectly good taijutsu. When the other Chunin in the academy found Mizuki, he was rocking back and forth, muttering about a bad man with scars, and that's not an in-haul. Needless to say, Mizuki never quite recovered. 6 months later. "Alright, it took forever, but you're finally ready to start learning from Jin and Shin, as well as a weapon," the scarred man said. He was genuinely proud of his student and himself. Naruto had started out with nary a clue on how to use Taijutsu, and now the boy could take anyone who wasn't a Taijutsu specialist themselves and win. Provided, of course, they didn't have some sort of super defense shield. Yada. But Rikamaru-sensei aren't kunai and shuriken enough. The blonde shouted enthusiastically. No, and thinking like that is the reason why we lose so many ninjas. Kunai and shuriken are alright weapons, but neither is what I'd call suited to melee combat, that's why Anbu carries swords. Once you get to a certain point, just throwing massive amounts of kunai and shuriken won't work, so I get to teach you the fine art of using a sword. The bald man said with a shake of his head. The crash course he had given Naruto had covered a lot, but not everything. Like a katana? The whiskered boy said in awe. Katanas were cool. Hell no. Katanas are for emo wannabe samurai. You will be learning how to use a kadachi, short enough for concealment, but long enough to give you decent range. The scarred man said with a tick on his head. Why did everyone love an overhyped bastard sword so much? Rikamaru wondered. What's wrong with katanas? The blonde asked. Everyone knew katanas were awesome, even if they weren't as awesome as ninjutsu. So why did sensei dislike katanas? You're not the stupid boy, figure it out. The bald man said after a second to work through his frustration. Naruto began to think, using his mind was something he had been doing a lot of over the last few months. Katanas can be concealed unless you're really big, and everyone has an idea of how to fight a katana user right. The blue-eyed boy said after thinking it through. Rikamaru had hammered into his head that stealth, surprise, and precision were the hallmarks of a good ninja. Katanas could be precise, but they lacked the other two qualities. Right, katanas have a very good reputation, not as good as the magic sky swords some people have, but good enough that everyone assumes that they are the epitome of swords. Katanas are only as good as their forgers and their users. The scarred man said looking at his student. Sensei, I hear you talk about magic sky swords a lot, but what are they? Naruto had been wondering about that for a long time. Well, I call them magic sky swords because they all have powers that can make a rookie like you a serious threat for some jonin. Really none of them are connected to each other more than the users are. Some of them are chakra blades, like Raijin and the White Fang, others have the ability to drain people's chakra or increase your own, and a very select few can actually manipulate the elements. Thing is that the users tend to start relying on their blade's special abilities and forgetting how to fight without them. Rikamaru said with a laugh. Alright, so if I get one learn to use it but don't rely on its abilities. The blonde said in an amusing tone. Very good, you see why I started making you use that head of yours. The bald man said to his student. Honestly, teaching Naruto had done wonders for his outlook, Rikamaru mused. He was still a cynical, pessimistic man, but he could honestly say he was happier now than he had been a year ago. Hi sensei. So when do we start? The whisked boy said taking his sensei's good-natured ribbing. I still have to get you your practice blade, we'll start today after the academy lets out. In the mornings you'll be learning ninjutsu from Shin and strategy from Jin. Now, go talk to Shin, he should be in the complex. The old man said with a smile. The complex was the building where Naruto had first met Team 13, and it was where, more often than not, you could find them and a few other old-timers in the village. Naruto nodded and took off. So Rikamaru, what do you think of the boy? The old cage said appearing behind his comrade. He's got talent Hiruzen, a shame the academy never saw it. Still, I'm surprised that you let arguably the most dangerous Anbu team in history take on a student. The scarred man said. Hiruzen had always been an opponent of teaching children to kill and tended to coddle them. The boy deserves the best, and his enemies aren't going to hold back just because he's half-trained. Besides it'll piss off Danzo. The bearded cage said with a smile. That guy's still being a whiny bitch. Rikamaru said shaking head. No one really liked Danzo, not even his teammates had liked him. Unfortunately yes, and for whatever reason my teammates listened to him. The old cage said with a sigh. Those three had been getting worse and worse over the years. You really should dissolve the council and get new guys. The short man commented as he and his friend walked into the complex. Like you three. Hiruzen said with a laugh. Remember the last time you left us in charge? The bald man deadpanned. That battle won the war for us. The old cage pointed out reasonably. True, the battle of Kirike Pass had ended Kumo's resistance and led to the death of the Shodai Reikage. But the cost had been prohibitive. We got lucky. The scarred man said, waving off the fact that the three of them had held out against a vastly superior force for 4 hours until Konoha had been able to reinforce them. As long as you and the others refuse to take up council seats, I have to work with what I have. Sandaime said with a sigh. You've got a point there. The bald man acknowledged. So, does he know? Sarutobi asked, serious now. Rikamaru could keep a secret, but when it came to who you were, he often didn't bother. Of his heritage? Not a clue, I've given him the means to figure out about his burden, but he hasn't figured it out yet. The scarred man returned levelly. There was a reason why I didn't tell him. The old cage said with some venom. I know, but it's better if he figures it out on his own or has someone he trusts tell him than have it thrown at him when one of these chuckleheads decides to try and kill him. Rikamaru pointed out. You really think so poorly of the village? The sensei asked, saddened. If people like Rikamaru, who had bled and nearly died for this village, didn't trust it, what did that say? Iubi caused a lot of grief and pain to people, and rather than deal with it, most people just transferred their feelings about the fox to him. Most of them won't do anything, but it only takes one. The scarred man said with a shrug. I suppose you're right, but what happens if he doesn't figure it out before someone tells him? Sarutobi asked his old friend. You learn a lot about a person when you legitimately train them. Rikamaru was the best person to ask about Naruto's mental state and ability. I really can't say. The boy has an almost miraculous ability to deal with trauma, but that ability has limits and takes time to work. Hopefully there will be someone else there to calm him down and tell him the truth. The old Taijutsu specialist said with a sad smile. Indeed, sometimes I wonder how he copes with all the hate against him and still stay happy. The old cage said out loud to himself. It's a defense mechanism from what Jin says. The boy is too stubborn to back down and despite the lack of any formal teaching or raising, managed to cobble together a working mind based on observation and sheer inability to quit. Somehow, Naruto knows that if he ever gave into the hate then he would lose himself and prove everyone right. The scarred man answered. The trio had discussed it often, Jin because it was a miracle of human psychology, Shin because it was a puzzle and Rikamaru because he had to figure out how to push the boy. Really a child shouldn't need that ability. The professor said sadly. Just be glad we got to him now, a year or two later, and that happy idiot persona of his would have been carved in stone and it would take an apocalypse to break it. The scarred man said trying to alleviate his friend's concerns. I guess, come by the tower sometime with the rest of them, it's nice to see people my age who are reasonable. Hiruzen said puffing his pipe as he walked off. Complex, so you're finally here kid. I thought I was going to die before you'd be ready. The tattooed man said smirking. Shin sensei, that's not fair, I had to learn everything from scratch and Rikamaru sensei is a perfectionist. The blonde whined. Got a point there now, you have a large chakra reserve this means that you can learn lots of high-level jutsus, but we won't be doing that until you can do the basic 3 without fail. The ponytailed man said grinning at his new student. I can already do Kawarimi and Henge, but I can't make a bunshin. The blue-eyed boy said with a grimace. You do know that you need to make a bunshin to pass the genin exam right? Shin said exasperatedly. What? That's not fair. The whiskered boy screamed. He did have more control, but unless he was actually fighting or with someone he didn't trust, this included most of Konoha, the boy didn't use it. What did Ricky tell you? The gray-haired man said patiently. Life's a bitch, you have to make it your bitch. The blonde said with a sigh. That's right. So we're going to work on chakra control until you can make a bunshin. To start, climb up the wall using only your feet. Too much chakra and you'll be blown off the wall, too little and you'll only get a few steps. The tattooed man said. Hi sensei. Naruto said and began to get to work. After an hour of doing this, Shin sensed someone. Naruto, keep working I'm going to get some coffee. The ponytailed man said. Hi. The blonde said not really paying attention. Shin left and appeared behind the new presence, it was a girl, the Hyuga heiress no less. Well, a Hyuga, don't often see your family around here. The tattooed man said smiling as the girl jumped. IIW was just the heiress tried desperately to come up with a reason for being here. Watching my student. Look, if you really do care about him, talk to him, he won't reject you, and if you don't stop following him people are going to talk. The man said fiddling with his ponytail. I know, but I'm not pretty or strong like the other girls. The shy girl said, looking down at herself. Shin wondered what the hell her clan had done to her to make this girl so full of self-loathing. Do you really think Naruto cares about your physical qualities? Naruto looks at people's spirits and judges them by that, not what they can do or look like. The gray-haired man said gently. Naruto had improved greatly, but he needed friends his own age, not a bunch of old geezers. But what if he rejects me? The pale-eyed girl said. That had always been her fear, if Naruto rejected her then she wouldn't be able to take it. If you think he'll do that then you really don't know him at all. Shin said coldly. Hinata thought about this for a moment. Naruto never gave up and never let anyone bring him down. This was true, but now that she thought about it, Naruto had never shown hostility to anyone besides Sasuke and Sakura. Sasuke, because of the competing egos in Sakura, well no one knew why the blonde had snapped that day, but all concluded that Sakura had deserved it. Hi. Hinata said with increasing determination. This new sensei of Naruto's was right, even if Naruto didn't immediately accept her feelings for him, she would have to get close to even have a chance. You can talk to him during class, right now he's training so run along. The tattooed man said with a chuckle, looked like the girl got it. Pairing the heiress of Konoha's most prestigious clan with a village pariah. That was a prank of consummate skill. Ayano, okay. The blue-haired girl stuttered out as she bowed and left. Shin shook his head at the girl. She would get confidence around Naruto or suffer a mental breakdown trying. Guzo, this is a lot harder than I thought. Naruto shouted. You're still using too much chakra, kid. Calm down and concentrate on the smallest amount of chakra possible. The tattooed man said with a sigh. I'm trying. The blonde said through clenched teeth. Alright, try to feel your chakra, what does it feel like? Shin asked taking another tack. Raw and chaotic, there's just too much. It's like a storm. The Jinchuruki said after focusing for a moment. I was afraid of that. Looks like we have to focus on meditation and calming that storm. Until you learn to control that storm, your chakra control is always going to be subpar compared to others your age. It doesn't matter as much with high-level jutsu, but it does mean you're going to have trouble using jinjutsu, and for all of your stamina, you'll lose most of your fights. The gray-haired man said, still fiddling with his ponytail. Nani? The whiskered boy said in confusion. Alright, suppose we both have a barrel of water. If I use a teaspoon and you use a bucket, who will run out of water first? Even if you have a bigger barrel? Shin asked patiently. I really wish that someone had bothered to teach this kid logic when he was younger. The tattooed man mused. I will, because I'm wasting more water. The blonde said in understanding. Exactly, so we'll have to start at the beginning with the academy exercises for first years. The ponytailed man said. There are academy exercises? Naruto asked in surprise. Shin resisted the urge to slam his head into a wall. Why, oh why, did they have to take the kid with the most potential but least training? Do you actually learn anything at the academy? The older man asked only half-jokingly. How to pull pranks? The boy said after a moment's thought. Of course. Shin said in exasperation. True, the boy had potential, but to reach it you had to work through a mountain of neglect. So what are the exercises, Shin-sensei? Naruto asked. Take a kunai and make it levitate using only your chakra. The tattooed man said. At the academy. I have to talk to him today, I just have to. I promised. Hinata's thoughts were focused on one action, talking to her crush. Others seemed to notice, but dismissed it. Hinata got like this every few days, and it never came to anything. Naruto walked in looking frustrated but otherwise normal, and received his daily glare from Sakura and Sasuke. Shrugging, the blonde sat down by himself as he usually did. Unlike most days, where Kagome arrived at the last moment, a new man walked in with a scar across his face and warm eyes. Hi everybody. Kagome-san had to retire, so I'm your new sensei. You can call me Iruka-sensei. The scarred Chunin took a moment to glare at Naruto before starting his lecture on the Hokages. Naruto paid him no mind, but causally wondered why it was only the old people seemed to like him. Don't worry about it. Now if only I could figure out Rikamaru's riddle. My birthday is the day of the Kyuubi attack, so the reason they hate me has to do with that, but how does one kill a demon? Maybe this guy will tell me. And so our greatest Hokage gave his life killing the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Iruka droned on. How? The blonde boy piped up. Maybe this guy would give him some answers. What do you mean how? The teacher asked. The Hokage and his own sense of honor demanded that he treat every one of his students the same. So he couldn't just ignore the question. Well, a man once asked me how you kill a demon and I haven't been able to figure it out. The blue-eyed boy said. The rest of class realized it was a very good question. How does one kill a demon? A highly classified jutsu that can destroy demons. Iruka answered quickly. It was the standard answer that he had heard given to other students who asked the same question. I thought that too, but that doesn't work. If we had a powerful enough jutsu to destroy a demon, we would advertise it and use it to prove our superiority to other villages. The whiskered boy said, shooting down the objection. The dobe has point. How did Yondaime kill the demon? The last Uchiha spoke up. If he could find out how the demon was killed, he could learn it and use it to kill Itachi. The teacher wasn't saying anything. How, Iruka-sensei, how? Kiba shouted. I'll find out. Ino said, bringing up her hands to start her family jutsu. She wanted to impress Sasuke, which explained why she hadn't stopped to think about the consequences. But she was facing offside, so Iruka didn't see her until the last second. Ino, don't. Chaoji said, but it was too late. The Mind Walker had already entered Iruka's mind. A few moments later Ino came out and screamed, demon, pointing at Naruto. What? Everyone else said collectively. Yondaime sealed the fox into Naruto when he was baby, and now the fox controls him. The blonde girl said. Naruto was in a state of shock. The Kyuubi was inside him. It couldn't be true. And yet it all added up: his birthday, the hatred, the subtle campaign of torture. The blonde boy began to cry. It was all true, he was the demon, he killed all of those villagers. It was all too much, the hatred had been bad enough. But to think that they were justified, that the villagers' right to do that. Naruto is no demon. How do I know this? Because despite his antics, Naruto has never been violent without cause. Think about a glass of water, does the glass become water? No, it remains a glass. Naruto is the only thing keeping the Kyuubi at bay, he is not, despite the prejudice of the village, a demon. Shino spoke calmly, further shocking everyone in the room. Shino never talked that much. Hinata looked at her crush, she seemed so defeated. I have to help Naruto-kun now. The girl said to herself as she walked over to the blonde and gave him a hug. It was the first time Naruto had had physical affection in 6 years, on instinct he wrapped his arms around her and held on to her like a drowning man. I will not faint, Naruto-kun needs me. Why does he always have to endure so much? The heiress thought as she made wordless sounds of comfort to the blonde. Shino is right. Demons can't cry, can they? Ino, you will be suspended for what you did. Yes, Naruto does contain the nine-tailed fox, but he is its jailer, not the fox. This is an S-class secret that you are forbidden to tell anyone else. Iruka was, if nothing else, honest with himself. He had seen the Kyuubi attack, felt its malevolent chakra, and looking at the broken, sobbing boy, Iruka was forced to conclude that he and the entire village had done a grave disservice to the boy. Earl, you and the bug kid take Naruto to the Hokage and tell him what happened. The rest of you are going to hear a little story. The huge man known as Jin said, walking into the classroom. Hi. Hinata and Shino said and half carried, half dragged the Jinchuruki out of the classroom. Not that I wasn't going to recommend that anyway, sir, but who are you? The scarred teacher asked. Instantly recognizing the man as the most dangerous person in this entire building. Me? I am Jin Azuma, retired jonin of Konohagakure. I am also, among other things, the closest thing that boy has to family outside of the Hokage. Now kids, I've seen a lot of action, I fought in all 3 of the great shinobi wars. My story takes place in a place called Satoshi's Oasis, in the Land of Wind. Satoshi's Oasis, 40 years earlier. It was during the closing days of the Second Great Shinobi War, my team and I had been there since the beginning, and at the time Konoha and Suna were enemies. There had been rumors of a monster somewhere in Wind, and the Nidain paranoid man that he was, sent us to check it out. Damn it, what the hell is this thing? Rikamaru, one of my best friends, shouted as we dodged a massive sand-covered claw. Rikamaru was the taijutsu specialist of the team. Hell of a fighter, just don't mention his height. I think it's one of the Bijuu. Shin, the ninjutsu specialist of the team, said. Great guy, funny sense of humor, and a weird obsession with his ponytail. How the hell are we supposed to fight a fucking demon? Ricky cursed. The same way we fight everything else. Shin, try to slow that damn thing down with some suit and jutsus. Ricky, kill that bastard monk, I'll keep them distracted. I said. Whom were we facing? Well, we were facing Shukaku and some crazy-ass monk who had evidently summoned the thing to avenge the motherland. Distracting a demon who can manipulate the sand in a desert is hard. Doable, but hard. Worse, I was Yunjutsu specialist, meaning that I didn't have that many elemental jutsus at the time to give the Ichibi pause. I learned from that mistake after this incident. Back to what I was doing, dodging like mad while throwing off my personalized explosive tags, which were a fair bit stronger than normal tags. A fair bit doesn't really matter when the other guy can regenerate as long as he has sand. Shin, Kami bless him, was right beside me, throwing water jutsus around like candy. This slowed down Shukaku a lot. Wet sand becomes mud and requires a bit different chakra to manipulate the same way. Of course, this didn't mean that we weren't fighting for our lives, or that we weren't incredibly lucky to survive. We had been keeping the demon at bay for several minutes before a massive chakra explosion rocked the area. Jin, we've got a problem. Ricky shouted at me from the distance. What is it? I shouted back, dodging another sand blast. Yeah, killing the monk. Bad idea, the crazy-ass bastard fused himself with the Shukaku rather than die. Ricky said, landing beside me. So that means, I said, trailing off. Shit, monks can't really stand up to ninjas normally because we cheat. But they usually have a lot of chakra, even for us. But our friendly demon has just gotten a power boost and is even more insane than he was. Shin deadpanned. Great. Ideas? I asked as we all Kawarimi away from another storm of sand spears. Pray to Kami. Shin said, trying to lighten the situation. Useful ones, Shin, useful ones. I snapped. Well, if you two can buy me some time, I might be able to reverse the summoning process and send him back to wherever he came from. Shin said after a moment. How much time? I asked. Half afraid of the answer. 5 minutes. Shin said, eyes downcast. We'll see what we can do. Ricky, let's go. I ordered and we both launched ourselves at the demon. Jin, remember what we did in Kumo? Ricky asked. At the fall of Kumo, we, along with a couple of others, made some creative use of the enemy lightning techniques to blow up one of the gates. The same principle could reasonably be applied to other things. Yeah, but where are we going to get a thunderstorm? I asked as I threw another explosive tag into Shukaku's face. Water conducts, so we don't have to use that strong a technique. Ricky pointed out. Good, because if this doesn't work, we're screwed. I said and began flashing through hand signs. We're screwed anyway if Shin doesn't pull through. Ricky shouted as he started his own technique. Point taken. On 3 then. I asked. On 3. He agreed. 1 we both said. 2, 3. Ryuiden no jutsu. Ricky called, and a lightning dragon formed behind him and rammed itself into Shukaku's stomach. Inazuma Rashi no jutsu. I shouted and sent a dozen smaller bolts of lightning strike all over the demon's body. The lightning did its job, driving Shukaku back, and quite a bit of his body looks like blackened glass now. However, those attacks drained both of our chakra levels to the bone, and we're barely able to stand. Shukaku screamed in anger and pain and prepared to kill us both with one blow. We're in no condition to dodge. Only to find that the 5 minutes are up and the demon disappears. You guys look like shit. Shin said, walking up to us. He looked tired and worn out, but was in better shape than us. Shut up Shin, you're not looking so hot yourself. Ricky growled. Whatever, job's done, let's head home I said, making myself stand through sheer force of will. Rikumaru and Shin grinned as we dragged ourselves back to Konoha. Konoha Academy, present. Kids, the reason I told you that story is so that you would understand the difference between humans and demons. Demons do have intelligence after a fashion, but all they ever can be is monsters. Monsters that want nothing more than to destroy. Humans can become monsters too, but you can tell because they've lost what makes them human. Jin finished his tale. Class, we will come back tomorrow, you can leave early today. If any of you have any questions, feel free to ask me or Jin-sama here. Iruka said as most of the class was still in a daze at hearing Jin's story. It was amazing, 3 shinobi had stood up to a demon and won. Just Jin, and I'd love to help, but I've got to go check on my student. Yamanaka, come with me. This village takes a dim view when it comes to telling secrets. The huge man said. Why are you training Naruto? Is it because of the Kyuubi? The dark-haired Avenger asked. The Dobe certainly needs help, but I could use that power more and better. He thought. Sasuke had nothing against the blonde besides the rivalry thing, but believed that his need to get stronger superseded everyone else's. No, it's despite that. The kid has more potential than I've seen since Yondaime. Besides, the others and I were bored. And no, Uchiha, we will not train you. The bespectacled man said with a shake of his head. Why not? Sasuke almost spat. It had been a very long time since someone had refused him anything and he wasn't used to it. Honestly. We just don't see the need. You'll grow strong on your own, without our help. Naruto would too, but by the time he did, it wouldn't have mattered. That and the kid's grown on us. The black-haired man said with a smile as he walked out. Hokage Tower. Naruto-kun, listen to me, you are not the demon, you are the container. Sarutobi had been, without much success, trying to coax Naruto out of his shock. Then Naruto-kun, Hokage-sama eyes are right. You're too nice to be a demon. The Hyuga heiress hated seeing him like this. It wasn't right, the sun shouldn't disappear so quickly. Naruto said nothing, but one could almost hear the immense effort he was putting forth. I am Uzumaki Naruto. I am the jailer of the nine-tailed fox. I will not fail the trust Yondaime gave me, and I will become the Hokage to protect everyone. The blonde declared, as through sheer force of will he forced his mind back together. Naruto, are you okay? The grandfatherly Kage asked. I think so. Thanks, Gigi, and Hinata was it? The blonde asked. Hi. The shy girl squeaked. Thank you so much for being there for me. You didn't have to do that, but if there's anything I could ever do for you, just let me know. Naruto said, giving a formal bow to the heiress. No, I don't need tea, that I just want tea to be your friend. The pale-eyed girl said. She wished that he hadn't found out the truth, but a promise to do whatever she needed. That was more than she had ever hoped. Then you will be my best friend, Hinata-chan. The blue-eyed boy declared. Uzumaki, if you are well, I'll take my leave. The bug-using boy said, preparing to leave. No Shino, you're a friend too. If you want to be, that is. Naruto said almost shyly. I would be honored, Naruto. The shades-wearing boy said without hesitation. Then let's all go for ramen. The blonde-haired boy said happily. Maybe later, boy, but you have sword training with me, remember? Rikumaru said, walking into the Hokage's office. Hi Rikumaru-sensei. The Jinchuriki never argued when it came to training. You two kids did well. Come on, Naruto. The bald man said as he walked out of the office. It appears that Naruto will only be getting stronger from this experience. You two are both forbidden to talk about Naruto's burden. Understand? The Hokage said to the 2 remaining students. They both nodded and silently vowed never to reveal Naruto's burden. Good, stand by him if you can. He needs more friends. Now run along, I have no doubt that your teacher has let class out early today. Sandaime said with a smile and watched the 2 leave. I wonder what's in store for you, Naruto. The elderly Kage mused. Gin soon came in, dragging along a terrified Ino. The Hokage gave a questioning look. Little brat told the secret. The huge man said with a scowl. I see, leave Ms. Yamanaka here with me. I will deal with her. The Sandaime said his eyes had become very cold. Alright, see you around Hiruzen. Jin said walking out of the door. Now, Ms. Yamanaka, at what point did you think it was okay to use your abilities to enter your teacher's mind and steal state secrets? The Kyuubi is an S-class secret young woman. If you had time to find the truth, you had time to find that out. Sarutobi said. His voice could have cooled hydrogen. I just wanted to impress Asu-kun. Ino said with a shudder. Where was the kindly old man she normally saw? So, for a boy you would sell out your village? The Hokage demanded. His voice had become even colder. No. The young girl began before Hiruzen interrupted. Save it Ms. Yamanaka. It is only because of your father that I do not have you killed right here and now. As it stands, if you wish to live and serve the village I will have a number of rules you will follow. Yes, Hokage-sama. The blonde girl said, terrified by the Hokage. First, you will have your mental abilities sealed. This is non-negotiable, you have proven that you cannot be trusted with them. When and if you make Chunin, the seals will be released. Second, you will disassociate yourself from Sasuke. Any attempts to talk to or connect with Sasuke outside of schoolwork are prohibited. Third, you will apologize to Iruka and Naruto publicly. Fourth, if you ever make a hostile move against any fellow Konoha citizen again I will throw you into the darkest cell I can find. If you ever reveal secrets again you will be executed. Hiruzen said. His voice was cold and carried the same inevitably that a natural disaster did. It would happen, no matter what anyone did to stop it. I understand Hokage-sama. Ino said, her eyes watering. Good. Bear. The Sandaime called. Yes sir. An Anbu appeared from the window. Take Ms. Yamanaka and apply the seals. The Hokage ordered. Understood. Bear said. He grabbed Ino by the arm and disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Hiruzen sat back and mused that he was really too old for this. Chapter 2. Taking care of business. Complex, 2 weeks later. No hold the blade in a forward grip. Rikamaru was teaching Naruto how to use a sword. It was slow going. But Rikamaru sensei the blonde whined. Holding a sword in the reverse grip was so cool it had to be better than a forward. Alright try it your way the scarred man said. Naruto often learned best through aversion therapy. Rikamaru attacked and using his sword as lever forced Naruto to release his blade and kick the blonde. Oh the whiskered boy said rubbing his stomach. Now hold it properly the bald man said calmly. How did you do that? Naruto had learned that his senseis would answer any question provided it wasn't classified and or something you could figure out yourself given what you knew. Leverage, when I hit your blade I made it into lever forcing it out of your grip. Won't work on anyone who knows what they're doing, but against little punks like you. It works the bald man said with a small smile. The boy was a sponge when it came to learning how to fight. Hi sensei the blonde said as he got back into his ready stance. So how are things with your class? The scarred man asked as he began to attack. Forcing Naruto to work on his concentration and breathing was fairly simple make him talk while fighting. Alright most of the class doesn't hate me. Hinata-chan is still weird though. The whiskered boy managed to get out as he blocked a series of stabs. Ever wonder why? Rikamaru said as he slid to the side as Naruto tried to cleave him in two. Just thought it was because she had a health problem the whiskered boy said with a grimace as he took a punch to his shoulder. You're not this dense you know why. Rikamaru didn't let up and kept hitting the blonde. Rikamaru-sensei even if what you're saying is true we have no chance together. It's crazy to think about it, the blue-eyed boy growled as he launched a sidekick, forcing his sensei back. Why do you say that I'm supposed to be the cynical bastard telling you to give up the scarred man said wryly. Hinata-chan is the closest thing this village has to royalty. And I'm the closest thing this village has to a designated whipping boy. Naruto said bitterly. So you're going to deny the idea of something ever happening between you and her because of that? The bald man said a little surprised at Naruto's reaction. Unless I'm the descendant of one of the cages or something like that Hinata's out of my league. She's probably already in shit for being my friend the blonde said as he went for a leg sweep. Whatever happened to the happy idiot that we all knew 6 months ago? Rikamaru said catching the leg and flipping Naruto into the ground. You killed him by beating the ever-living snot out of me, the whiskered boy said with a smile. Oh right good times. Still don't be so down on yourself. She really does care the scarred man said blocking a vicious groin slice. I know Rikamaru-sensei, but I don't want her hurt Naruto said rolling out of the way of a slash and flipping back up. So you're trying to protect her the bald man said shaking his head as he dodged a punch. Stupid kid always thinks he has to protect everyone. You know I was happier when I was an idiot and no one questioned my reasons, the blonde pouted as he jumped back from an overhead smash. No you weren't the bald man said as he continued his attack. I hate dealing with you old geezers always see too much the whiskered boy whined as he punched his teacher in the chest. You learn to do the same in time Rikamaru said with a grunt. Yeah, still it's annoying not to be able to hide anything from you guys, the blue-eyed boy said as he just barely dodged a roundhouse kick. Listen kid, if we couldn't tell when an 11-year-old kid is lying, we'd be pretty sorry. Excuse for Anbu, the bald man said with a smile as he smacked Naruto's temple with the flat of his blade. One question though, Naruto said, stumbling from the force of the blow. Okay, shoot, the short man said, settling back into a fighting stance as Naruto regained his balance. Why am I first one you guys trained? The blonde asked as he began to attack. You'll understand when you're older, Rikamaru said, dodging with ease. What kind of answer is that? The whiskered boy shouted, letting loose his emotions. It's one that you can understand. And what did I tell you about losing control of your emotions? The scarred man said with a snarl as he put Naruto down with a vicious chest blow. You say not to. But that doesn't mean I can just do it, the blue-eyed boy said with a grimace as he sat up. Why not? I've taught you how to, the bald man said, sheathing his sword. The only way I've ever really dealt with my emotions was to either ignore them or let them out. Just holding it all in. That's not something I really know how to do. You taught me assuming I already knew how to control my emotions somewhat. Naruto said, sheathing his own sword and shrugging. Ami, look, you'll have a lot of people telling you to kill your emotions to repress them. That doesn't work, humans are inherently emotional beings. But you have to make your emotions work for you, not against you. Rikamaru sometimes wondered if Naruto was some sort of case study in how much you could fuck up the human psyche and still have it work. Yeah, but how? The whiskered boy asked, cracking his neck. Are you faster when you're afraid or calm? The scarred man said. Wondering why he had never taken a student on before, it was so much fun seeing their heads light up with knowledge. Afraid, but we're ninja, we're not supposed to be afraid. The blonde answered, frowning. Who told you that fairy tale? As much as some of us hate it, we're still human. Humans will feel fear, it's just a simple way of our body saying move you dumb fuck. What ninjas do is use that fear to boost our reactions. We use anger to improve our strength. We use our grief to motivate us. We make emotions tools to better our bodies. Anyone who can do this simply becomes a better opponent than anyone who can't. The bald man said calmly. I see, how do I learn to do that? Naruto asked with a quizzical look. Same way you learn everything else I teach, the scarred man said with smile. Focus and persistence, the blonde answered automatically. Rikamaru firmly believed that the only things you need to learn anything was focus and stubbornness. Right, over time it will become instinctual to use your emotions, but right now we're going to do things the way I learned. The bald man's smile became satanic. Shit, Naruto didn't know who had trained his sensei, but that man had been a sociopath. Of that Naruto was all too convinced given how his teacher taught the old method. Yep, now you have to stand still, well piss you off. You move and I break a bone, the scarred man said. Hokage Tower, you wouldn't let me train him, bet you let the most bloodthirsty cell in history train him. The maimed leader of Root didn't shout, it was beneath him, but it seemed that way. Danzo, shut up, the old cage said, his voice betraying nothing other than irritation. Hokage-sama, you cannot dismiss our concerns so cavalierly, Kaharu, the lone female in the Hokage's office said. Tell me, what do you really want? Admittedly, the ex-members of Squad 13 have taken to training a young orphan boy who, according to them, has limitless potential. I do not see the problem, they have been loyal to us since the time of the Shodai. The Sandaime said. We cannot risk the demon getting out, Hamura said, fitzing with his glasses. How did Kaharu and Danzo keep talking him into situations like this? And you think that training the boy will allow that to happen? You are smarter than this, Hamura, the Hokage said with a mental grimace. By himself, Hamura was usually reasonable and intelligent, but when he was with Kaharu and Danzo it seemed to disappear. No, we're not letting our emotions cloud our judgment, the bitter old woman said. I am only going to say this once. Drop the issue. Naruto will be trained properly, and since someone has decided to make the academy teachers non-liable for his training, I will not see the village hero condemned to an early death because of your short-sightedness, the grandfatherly demeanor dropping from Sarutobi's face. We have nothing against the boy, but we want to make sure that another Orochimaru isn't being made. The glasses-wearing elder said. Not much chance of that given his psych profile, but still, Hamura thought, shaking his head. If only Danzo didn't have that damnable blackmail, he could help his old friend rather than hinder him. I'll admit I messed up with Orochimaru, but Naruto's different. Kami knows how, but he has his father's strength and mother's heart. Unless we betray him, he will not betray us. Sasuke is more likely in that regard. The bearded cage said. Let me take both of them then. Train them and make them loyal to the village, the crippled man said. You mean loyal to you? I will not stop those three from teaching Naruto, and you won't either, Danzo. They know what happened to Teruka at the time your father and the war made it impractical to charge you, but that's no longer a consideration, is it? You were useful during the war, and in memory of what you used to be, I have allowed you to live free. Sarutobi said, a predatory smile on his features. You lie, the master of Root said desperately. Do I, Danzo? Do you really want to play a game of chicken with me? I know all about your shadow games, for now they aren't a threat. But as soon as they are your life is forfeit, the Sandaime said, subtly reminding them why he was known as the god of shinobi. You can't, Danzo said. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Hiruzen had always been a weak-stomached fool before. He was supposed to give in and isolate the demon brat. I may be old, Danzo, but I can still fight. You would do well to remember that. The Hokage said as a shadow clone popped into existence and held a kunai to the crippled man's throat. Now then, is there anything else? Sarutobi asked as the clone dispersed. No, Lord Hokage, the three answered and bowed as they left. Time for some icha, I think, the Sandaime said with a perverted grin. Academy, 5 days later. Hey guys, Naruto called as he sat beside his two best friends. Uzumaki, the bug user, said. Then Naruto-kun, the Hyuga era, stammered out. Naruto, what the hell is up with your chakra? Kiba was, although not a close friend, one of the few who willing talked with Naruto. The blonde asked, confused. Why, you seem more controlled, the timid Hyuga stuttered. Rikamaru sensei has been teaching me to control my emotions. Other than that, I got nothing, the Jinchuruki said with a shrug. Indeed. The shade-wearing boy said. So what are learning today? Naruto asked with a smirk. Truth was, the only reason he went to the academy was to hang out with Hinata, Shino and occasionally Kiba. Don't you know, demon, one of the still prejudiced members of the class bat. Will you shut the hell up? If was a demon, I would have massacred this entire village 5 times over, the blonde said with a feral growl. Ignore them, Uzumaki, the Aburamaru said. Why was he always the voice of reason in the group? Yeah. The blue-eyed boy said, reining in his temper. His class had been filled with cheers and laughter before. But the icy hate that he saw in some of their eyes, it hurt him more than any beating. Why can't people see me and not that damn fox? Naruto screamed mentally. Oh, the Uchiha Avenger said. Yeah, team? The whiskered boy said, not looking at him. I want to fight, the black-haired boy said. No, Naruto said. 6 months ago, hell yeah, he would have fought, but Naruto had slowly absorbed the idea of fighting as a last resort and to kill the dumb fucker that did fight him. What do you mean no? Sasuke asked, dumbfounded. There's no point to either of us fighting. I'm not sure why you're obsessed with getting stronger, but I want no part of it. The blonde said coldly. Scared? The onyx-eyed boy asked with a scathing tone. Sasuke, if I really wanted to kill, you would be dead by midnight. Leave me alone, the whiskered boy had stopped caring about the Uchiha. Rivals are just people who are too stupid to accept others as equal, had been Jin's words when the subject came up. How would you kill me? The Avenger asked with a sneer. The same way any competent shinobi kills someone. With a knife to the spine. Before you knew I was there, the blue-eyed boy said, irritated. Just once he would like to have people respect his ability and not question him, just once. You don't have the skill to hide from me, the last loyal Uchiha said with a smirk. Sasuke was able to get inside the Inuzuka and Anbu compounds. Do you really think I can't get into the Uchiha compound? The blonde said, incredulous. Sasuke didn't answer and stalked off. Was it wise to threaten him like that? The bug user asked. Probably not, Shino, but he's always pissed me off. The blonde said with a scowl. Why, and Naruto-kun? The shy Hyuga asked. Naruto didn't really hate anyone, a miracle all things considered, but it was fairly easy to make him angry. I can't really say why. Partially jealously, he gets everything handed to him on a silver platter. But mostly it's because of his attitude. Yeah, he lost his family and that probably hurts more than I can imagine, but he won't deal with that and everyone says it's okay. We shouldn't push him too hard, he's gone through such tragedy. Hinata-chan's dealt with shit, I've dealt with shit, why does he get special treatment? The whiskered boy didn't really whine, but it sounded like it. The reason he gets special treatment is simple. The Uchiha possesses a powerful Kekai Genkai known as the Sharingan. The village does not want to lose it. The shade-wearing boy said with some distaste. What does the Sharingan do then? The Jinchuruki wondered out loud. My father says that it's a T-thief's bloodline bead, but wouldn't say anything else. The pale-eyed girl stuttered. Hinata-chan, you've really got to get over that stutter, Naruto said with a half-smile. Sorry, the blue-haired girl blushed and looked at the ground. I'm not mad at you, Hinata-chan, the whiskered boy said with an exasperated shake of his head. That girl was way too down on herself and Naruto aimed to fix it somehow. He was still working on that. Hinata gave a small smile. She knew intellectually that Naruto had the patience of a god when it came to his friends and nothing would make him turn his back on her. Years of emotional abuse said otherwise. Alright class, today we're learning about the second great shinobi war. Iruka began his lecture. Yippee, the blonde muttered sarcastically. He much preferred learning from his other senseis. They actually made history interesting. Their less the pure views on the participants were always good for laugh. Still can't believe that Jin sensei calls the Nidaime a paranoid bastard, the blonde thought with a chuckle. Naruto's training continued. Although far from being a master in any respect, the boy learned how to live and think. He learned how to disappear into a crowd without thought. How to use and conceal a sword, tactics, strategy and more. However, despite his increasing skills, he still remained hopeless at making jinjutsu. It's like trying to build a house of cards when the deck is on fire, it's pretty easy to scatter the deck or break the house, but making one? That's just not something Naruto will ever be that good at. Jin had said once when asked about Naruto's skill with ninjutsu. Hokage Tower, 1 year since the revelation of the Kyuubi. You can't do this to him. The boy already has too many burdens. Rikamaru said. Of the 3 members of Squad 13 he was by far the closest to their student. Have you seen the Uchiha's psyche profile? The tattooed man asked with a wry smile. I have, but I feel he can still be saved. However, all things considered, we must be prepared for the possibility that he won't be, the elderly Kage said. Kami, he hated this job. Perhaps, but Sarutobi's right. We cannot allow the Sharingan to exist outside of Konoha, the large man said. Kami, he hadn't expected this when he left the complex this morning. What about Haddock? The scarred man asked. Kakashi still mourns the deaths of Obito and Minato. I doubt he would be able to do the deed, the Sandame said sadly. And Naruto could. The bald man said with a grimace. For better or worse, Naruto's internalized the old Anbu motto. The mission first, your comrade second, yourself last. If it comes down to the mission or his own conscience, the mission will win. Jin said, placing a hand on his friend's shoulder. We'll give him the option to take the mission. If he agrees to take the mission, you 3 will train him to fight the Sharingan. Here is in regarding his old comrades with a depressing finality. Hi Hokage-sama, all 3 said. Dizu, send Uzumaki in. The Sandame said. Yes, Lord Hokage, the secretary answered, concealing some distaste for the blonde. Not for the fox, but rather the fact that he was rather crude. Hey Hokage Jiji, sensei's the blue-eyed boy said, walking in and flashing one of his rare true smiles. Naruto, as you know, should all go well, in 6 months you will be graduating. Along with the rest of your class, the old Kage said with a smile. Hell yeah. Hokage Jiji, the whiskered boy shouted enthusiastically. Rikamaru said, smacking the boy in the back of the head. Sorry sensei, the blue-eyed boy said, immediately contrite. Anyways, what do you think of Sasuke Uchiha? Jin asked. Stuck-up bastard who refuses to deal with his problems. Possibly obsessive-compulsive in regards to killing someone. Never says who, the blonde answered automatically. Read this, the Sandame handed over a folder showing the psychological profile of Sasuke Uchiha. The blonde looked at the folder and read through it. How in the hell is he not in a mental institution? Naruto asked after finishing the file. Because by law I can't suspend anyone from the program unless they prove themselves a danger to themselves or others. Sasuke has not, Sarutobi answered. I see, well, other than giving me proof he's a basket case, I don't see the point of showing me this. Hokage Jiji, the Jinchuruki said after a minute. You read a part about flight risk, correct? Shin asked. Yeah, the blonde answered, nodding. Simply put, we're going to have two-pronged approach to maintaining Sasuke's loyalty, Hiruzen said with a grimace. Nani? The blue-eyed boy asked. Sasuke needs to build bonds to people in order to make him loyal to the Leaf. Hopefully his teammates and sensei can do that. However, there is the possibility they can't. That's where if you choose to can come in. The Hokage said, folding his hands together. You want me to kill Sasuke if he goes rouge, is that it? The blonde asked sarcastically. Essentially yes. Ordinarily we would entrust this to his Jonin sensei. However, forces have conspired to play Sasuke with the one Jonin who cannot kill him. Sarutobi said, his face hard, only his eyes showing immense sadness. Why not? Naruto asked, nonplussed. It's a personal matter, but suffice to say it involves old debts. The Hokage said, waving off the issue. So why me? The Jinchuruki asked. Honestly, Naruto wasn't sure whether to take the mission or not. True, he disliked Sasuke, but he didn't want him dead. Could I really kill him? The boy wondered. You're the only one who we can realistically place on the team without causing undue suspicion. If it helps, consider it an infiltration exercise. Shin said with a shrug. I see, is there really no other way? Naruto, if you don't want to, you don't have to. The scarred Taijutsu user said. We can task this mission to the Jonin sensei, but the elderly Kage trailed off. The conclusion plain to see. If Sasuke went rouge, odds were that the teacher wouldn't be able to bring himself to kill. I understand, Hokage Jiji. I don't like it, but I'll do it. Naruto said with a grimace after several minutes thought. Very well, then your senseis are going to spend the next 6 months teaching you to fight the Sharingan. Given that this will be more intense than anything you've done, I have given them permission to teach you a technique that will allow you to be in 2 places at once, the Hokage said. Knowing that even with all the training Naruto had done, he still had trouble making a simple bunshin. What's that? The blonde said with small grin. A new jutsu was a new jutsu and thus awesome by definition. Page no bunshin jutsu, it makes physical clones out of chakra, the tattooed man said with a predatory grin. One could make Naruto do virtually anything if it involved new jutsus or ramen. Hickus. The whiskered boy said with a much larger grin. Yes, it is. Once you have the Kage no bunshin jutsu mastered, you'll use it to go to school and work your ass into the ground. The glasses wearing man said with a laugh. This is going to hurt, isn't it? Naruto said with a sigh. The look on his sensei's faces, they all gave the impression of impending doom. Yep, Shin said. Training with Shin. More focus, Naruto. You still use too many hand signs. And stop vocalizing the jutsu, Shin said, smacking his student in the head. As for the umpteenth time Naruto overloaded a jutsu. Hi sensei. The blonde scowled, wishing he was his clone right now. The Sharingan is a fairly cheap-ass bloodline, all things considered. It can see through and copy any jutsu. Rumor has it that the final level allows for an unbreakable Jinjutsu and black fire. But like all things, the Sharingan has a few flaws, and it's only as good as its user, the tattooed man said, rubbing his chin mockingly. So beyond the problems all dojutsus have, what is the Sharingan's flaw? The blue-eyed boy said, curious. All dojutsus had the same problem, they needed the eyes to be intact and undamaged to work. But most dojutsus had unique the flaws, for example the Byakugan had a small blind spot. Simply put, it saps growth. When you train to the brink and work hard, your body naturally adapts and becomes stronger for the experience. This in turn leads to you having the ability to do things that a Sharingan user can't. This flaw isn't advertised. Also, poorly trained or arrogant users tend to copy and use jutsus without thinking about the chakra cost. The old man said, playing with his hair. So my body and chakra can be trained to do things they can't, the blonde said thoughtfully. Correct, in particular if you reduce the number of hand signs and stop saying your jutsu you'll get an advantage. The tattooed man said. Why? Naruto asked. He had a few ideas but wanted to be sure. Simple, when doing a jutsu for the first time you have to use all the hand signs to make your chakra flow properly. The Sharingan copies these signs and allows for duplication. However, if they lack the signs and have to guess which jutsu you're using, the gray-haired man trailed off, allowing the boy to draw his own conclusions. They'll mess up and the jutsu will backfire, the whiskered boy said with a smile. Right, this becomes even more so once you start learning elemental techniques, Shin said with a laugh. You said I can't learn those till I become a genin, the blonde said, pouting. True, but I'm giving you a heads up, the tattooed man said with a shrug. And so Naruto, although not learning any advanced jutsus besides the Kage Bunshin, became a master of performing jutsus without words. As well as reducing the number of hand signs. True, he didn't know anything beyond C rank, but those he did know he mastered. Training with Rikamaru. Master, damn it, you're not going to catch anyone with that. The scarred man said, dodging a hook kick and replying with a wicked hammer strike. Hi sensei, the blonde said, grunting as he took the hit. Naruto, you're faster than this, why are you holding back? Rikamaru said. I'm not sure, the whiskered boy grimaced as he settled into a fighting stance. Explain, the bald man said. It wasn't a question. I don't know, I think I'm going all out, but looking back I can see myself holding back. Naruto said after a moment of thinking. Interesting, the scarred man said with a faraway look on his face. You have an idea, Rikamaru sensei? The blonde asked. Could be that you're subconsciously trying to hold back the fox in turn that leads you to holding back some of your abilities. The bald man said, cracking his knuckles. How do I overcome that? The blue-eyed boy asked. By putting your life on the line, Rikamaru said as he attacked the boy. Ah crap, the whiskered boy said as he desperately tried to dodge. Listen, the Sharingan makes it very difficult to catch your opponent off guard. I know you prefer fighting offensively, but sometimes the best defense is a good defense. Rikamaru said after finishing his tormenting of Naruto. Nani? The blonde said with a frown. Rikamaru had always favored offense over defense before. One of you will always attack. Given Sasuke's temperament, if you don't he will. If you can learn to react faster than he can act, you'll have the advantage. Under normal circumstances this is impossible, but one can train the muscles to do so, even if the mind cannot. The scarred man said, watching his student. How? The Jinchuruki asked. You'll notice that up till now we haven't been using any weight training, ever wonder why? The bald man asked. Not really, I assumed you had a good reason, the blue-eyed boy said with a shrug. Well, weights will make you faster over the long run. But it isn't very often that you'll get a chance to take them off, and once you're stuck on one speed. So I don't like using them, the older man explained calmly. Okay, but what does that have to do with training me to react faster? The blonde said with a frown. Yes, being able to move faster would be good, but that didn't explain how one could speed up reaction times. That is the normal method people use to defeat the Sharingan. We won't be doing that, instead we are going to train your reaction times to be faster to the point that you can react faster than most people can act. To do this we're going to use a combination of chakra and training. The scarred man said with a smile at the boy's face. Chakra? The blonde said, confused. Chakra under normal circumstances is used to strengthen the body and increase one's endurance. However, if you either have shitload of it or very fine control, you can use to give your body superhuman strength or speed. Most choose to use strength, as moving at high speeds is normally harmful to the human body. You however can bounce back from virtually anything that doesn't kill you outright, so we'll be teaching you how to move fast. The bald man said, his smile becoming predatory. Teach me the way of speed, Rikamaru sensei, Naruto said, bowing low. Training with Jin. I assume the Chuckle Bros are teaching you how to fight in Uchiha or anyone for that matter. Me? I'm going to teach you how to break out of any Jinjutsu and how to think. Everyone assumes it's about fancy jutsus and overpowered super techniques. It's not the greatest weapon anyone possesses at their own mind. At higher levels fights it stops being about power, but rather control and planning. Jin said sagely as he set up a shogi board. So how am I going to learn that? The blonde asked with a bit of fear. Of all of them, Jin by far was the most sadistic. Simple, we are going to play shogi and other strategy games while I use a Jinjutsu to set you on fire. The huge man said calmly. Isn't that a little extreme, Jin-sensei? Naruto shouted frantically. If you can still play shogi while thinking you're on fire, you'll be able damn well handle anything a Jinjutsu user throws at you. Jin said, shaking his head. He had been through this, it wasn't that bad. But I don't want to be set on fire. The blonde said, pouting. Listen, Naruto, pain is the body's way of saying do something, you bastard, you're getting hurt. It also helps us to know if we're still alive. But if you can control and work past it, then nothing anyone can do will be able to stop you. Now let's get to it. The faster you win, the sooner I'll take off the Jinjutsu, the dark-haired man said as he set up the Genjutsu. Hi sensei, the blonde said, fighting back a scream. It hurts being set on fire even if it wasn't real. Let's begin, Jin said as he made the first move. Academy, 6 months later. Man, am I glad to see this place again, Naruto said with a smile. His outfit had again changed. He now wore a black long-sleeve shirt and slacks with a burnt orange vest. He was currently sitting with the future teammate. What are you talking about, and Naruto-kun? The Hyuga heiress had mostly gotten over her stuttering. Only doing so when stressed or saying Naruto's name. They're just glad to see it for one last time, that's all. I had fun with you guys, the blonde said, rubbing the back of his head. Actually, I'm gladder that they've stopped torturing me. I don't think I could have taken much more of that, he thought to himself. Indeed, Uzumaki, care to tell me why you weren't here for the last 6 months? The bug user had realized that the Narutos they had seen weren't real a while ago, but hadn't met the real one till now. Sorry guys, I was training with my senseis. I'm not allowed to say anything more than that. Naruto said with a sheepish look. I see, the shade-wearing boy said. Well, what teams do you think we'll be on? Asked the dog user. He too was curious, but knew that everyone had secrets and Naruto had more than most. Well, you three are all suited for recon rescue teams, so we'll be together. Me? I'll probably get stuck with the Uchiha and some fangirl, the blonde said with a grimace, but that's just stupid. You and Sasuke don't get along, putting you on the same team is like retarded, right, Akamaru? Kiba asked his partner. Yep, the dog agreed wholeheartedly. Where else would I go? The Ino Shikacho trio will be reformed. My grades are better, but still not anything to write home about. Besides, people want me to be placed near an Uchiha so that if get out of control I can be taken care of. The whiskered boy said with a grimace. There is more to this than you say, Uzumaki, the bug user said with a monotone. Shino, I told you to call me Naruto, the Jinchuruki said with a shake of your head. Indeed you did, but calling you fish paste doesn't appeal to me, Shino answered. It means maelstrom, damn it. The blonde said in mock anger. Of course it does, Uzumaki, the stoic boy answered. The two had played this game many times before. You just did that to annoy me, didn't you? The blue-eyed boy said with a sigh. Why would I do that? Just because you are prone to emotional outbursts doesn't mean I intentionally provoke them. The bug user said. Internally smirking, it was too much fun to provoke people. He could see why Naruto did it. Still, he had a reputation to keep. Shino-kun and Naruto-kun, stop it. The blue-haired girl said she hated seeing her friends argue. Sorry, Hinata-chan, both said. The unspoken rule among the boys was that hurting Hinata was bad thing and those who did so had to apologize or face the other's wrath. Team 7. Haruno Sakura, Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke, Ruka said. Ignoring the groan from Naruto and squeal from Sakura. Called it, the blonde said with a small smile. Team 8. Hyuga Hinata, Inyazuka Kiba and Aburam Shino, the scarred teacher continued. It appears you were right, Naruto, the shade-wearing boy said. Too bad, well I guess I should go see if I can't make peace with my team, the blue-eyed boy said and stood up to move and sit with the other members of his team. Good luck, and Naruto-kun, the Hyuga heiress said with a blush. Yeah, we're here for you if you need some friends, the feral boy said with a grin. Thanks, that means a lot. Shino, try to keep these two out of trouble, eh? The Jinchuruki said as he left the group. Why would he say that to you and not me? The dog user whined. Simple, he trusts my logic, the bug user said. Hey guys, Naruto said. Shut up, you bastard, the pink-haired girl snapped. The two did not get along. Although Sakura didn't hate him for the Kyuubi, she hated him for pissing off Sasuke. Calm down, Sakura, yeah, you hate me, but let's at least try to work together, the blonde held up his hands apologetically. Sasuke-kun doesn't need your help, the green-eyed girl said fiercely. That isn't what I meant. The Jinchuruki said, holding back a sigh. Why had he agreed to this mission again? Oh yeah, because someone had to. Huh? The girl said, blinking. Look, even if Sasuke doesn't need my help, we're still a team. Konoha always prides itself on teamwork, so we should be able to work together. The blue-eyed boy said with a shrug. I'm impressed, loser. That actually sounded intelligent, Sasuke said using his patented smirk. Whatever. Looks like we have a long time to wait, the blonde said, ignoring the insult. Why? Sakura asked. True, she didn't like Naruto, but she was intelligent enough to see that he had a point. Heard Sasuke was getting some guy named Kakashi, supposedly really strong, but he's always late. The whiskered boy said. Naruto, where's your sword? Sasuke asked. Itachi used a sword, he should use a sword, but no one would teach him to use a sword, damn it. Maybe he could ask the dope. It's in here. The blonde answered, rolling up a sleeve and tapping a seal. So someone put a seal on you? The pink-haired genin said. Yeah, my senseis don't have much use for seals, but they know how to use them. Not to the extent that Jiraiya and the fourth could, but enough to make this. The blue-eyed boy said with a smile. The three then sat back and waited. And waited some more until. Fuck it. If he shows up, tell him I'm going to go train at training ground 8, Naruto shouted and shoo-shined away. When did Naruto learn to teleport? A confused Sakura asked. I don't know, but the dope has some explaining to do. The breeding Uchiha answered. Hello, Team 7. A one-eyed man said, poking his head into the classroom. You're late. The pink-haired genin shouted. Sorry, but I found a baby newt and had to go take care of it. The silver-haired man said with an eye smile. Liar. Sakura screamed. Where is your teammate? The masked jonin asked, looking around and seeing one missing. He got pissed off waiting for you and went to go train at training ground 8, the black-haired Uchiha said. Slightly annoyed that he hadn't thought of doing that. And you didn't stop him because. The silver-haired jonin was already preparing his "you suck" speech. He teleported, the lone female explained. What do you mean he teleported? Kakashi asked with a frown. The dope knows how to shunshin, the black-haired Uchiha answered with a shrug. Alright, let's all go to the training ground then to retrieve your teammate, the perverted jonin said and shoo-shined away. We have got to learn how to do that, Sakura said, speaking for both of them. Sasuke only grunted. Training ground 8. Alright guys, come at me with everything you have, Naruto said to his assorted clones. Right, boss? The clones answered. What followed next was somewhere between a dance and a slaughter as Naruto defeated each of his clones like clockwork. That's rather impressive. I assume you're the final member of Team 7. The silver-haired jonin said, having seen the boy take down his clones with a disturbing efficiency. I am. I take it you are chronically late, sensei. The whiskered boy answered, mentally dispersing the rest of the clones. Who told you that? Kakashi asked. Kids today no respect for their elders. Is this how Jiraiya felt when Minato-sensei told him off? If it is, I understand his pain, the man thought. Anyone who listens finds out 2 things about you. 1, you are always late, and 2, you enjoy reading perverted books. Most believe it's because you can't get any, the whiskered boy said with a shrug. What? I can get some whenever I want, the masked jonin said, scowling, although you couldn't tell. Hey, I'm just telling you what I heard. The blonde suppressed a mental smirk. Shin sensei was right, call another man's sexual prowess into question and they will lose all composure. And who told you that? The one-eyed man asked. Wondering who he had to get rid of. Can't say really, I heard it from a lot of people. The blue-eyed boy was laughing his head off internally. Really, Kakashi responded, a bit sad. He couldn't beat up everyone, the Hokage wouldn't like that. Hey guys. The blonde said as the remaining members of Team 7 arrived. Teach us how to shunshin, the dark-haired Avenger demanded. That will be Kakashi-sensei's job, the blue-eyed boy said with a smirk. Alright, let's get to know each other. Blondie, you go first, tell us your name, likes, dislikes and dreams. The masked jonin said, forestalling any attempted murders on Sasuke's part. Name's Naruto Uzumaki, I like training, my friends and ramen. I dislike stuck-up bastards, people who judge others for things they can't control, and people who hurt my friends. Don't really have a dream anymore, answered the Jinchuruki. Didn't he used to want to be Hokage? What made him lose his dream? The rest of the team wondered. Okay Pinky, you're next, Kakashi said, pointing at the girl. Who glared at him for calling her Pinky. My name is Sakura Haruno, I like, blushes and stares at Sasuke. I dislike Naruto and Ino Pig. My dream for the future, blushes even harder and continues to stare at Sasuke, the girl answered. Okay, you fail at life. Moving on, Broody, you're up, the silver-haired jonin said, ignoring the girl's screech that she didn't fail at life. I don't have any likes and I dislike most things. I have no dream, but I do have an ambition to kill a certain man and restore my clan. The black-eyed boy said. Pointedly ignoring Sakura's fangirl gaze. Alright, in the interest of fairness, my name is Kakashi Haddock. My likes and dislikes are classified and my dreams are not for kids' ears. Originally I was going to wait till tomorrow to do this, but we can do it today. The silver-haired jonin said. What's that? A curious Sakura asked. The real genin test. The academy test only shows your potential to be a ninja, passing gives you a chance, but all the jonin senseis give tests to determine if the teams are really ready to be ninja, the blonde answered. Correct Naruto, I guess the Hokage gave you a heads up. The masked Jonin was mentally frowning. Naruto seemed to know too much. It didn't fit with what his academy profile said. No, the old man didn't say squat, but you'll be amazed at the information you can get at a bar, the blue-eyed boy said smiling. Naruto, you idiot, you're too young for a bar, Sakura said and made to smack the boy who dodged. I know I am. I hinged to get in. I just wanted some info about the exams and found out a fair bit. Naruto said, shaking his head. Why did his team have to be the dysfunctional one? I see, I suppose I should congratulate you on your foresight. Alright, I have 2 bells, whoever doesn't get a bell will be sent back to the academy. The one-eyed Jonin said seriously. How long do we have? Asked the last Uchiha. You have until the sun goes down. Start, Kakashi said, and the 3 disappeared. For Genin, Sakura and Sasuke are doing pretty good at hiding themselves, but where the hell is Naruto? It's like he disappeared. The ex-Anbu frowned to not be able to sense a Genin of all things. That didn't bode well. From what I hear, this test isn't about our ability to fight, but teamwork, right? Naruto popped up out of nowhere. And who told you that? The masked Jonin asked. While wondering why the hell he couldn't sense Naruto's arrival. It was the fatal flaw of the Shunshin, there was always a slight disturbance of chakra where you landed. And any competent ninja could detect the disturbance. You're a Jonin, we've got a fangirl, a semi-psychopathic avenger, and a guy who barely passed. No way to win, but still, let's see what you got. Don't want a weak sensei now, the blonde said, taking out his sword and attacking. You're not bad. The silver-haired man had been forced to put his book away and was dodging adroitly. He's holding back a lot. If he went all out, I would have to use the Sharingan. What the hell is the academy teaching these kids? He realized. I could say the same to you now if you'll excuse. I have to go get Breedy and Pinky to help me get a bell, the blue-eyed boy said and again disappeared. I can't use that speed style too much, my body hasn't adapted to it yet. The blonde grimaced as he reappeared. Naruto, weren't you fighting Kakashi-sensei? The pink-haired girl said, surprised as Naruto appeared out of thin air. I was, but he's out of our league. He was toying with me, the whiskered boy said with a frown. Well, you never were a very good ninja, the green-eyed Genin said with disdain. Whatever, let's try to work together to take him down, the blonde said, ignoring the insult. I'm not abandoning Sasuke-kun, Sakura said fiercely. I never asked you to, the Jinchuriki said with distaste. But if we both get bells, then what happens to Sasuke? The pink-haired Genin asked warily. This is an all-or-nothing sort of thing, either we all pass or we all fail, that's how it works. I've never heard of a 2-man team, have you? Naruto asked. What do you know? The girl growled at being outthought by the class dope. Just trust me, the blonde said. Alright, do you have a plan? Sakura said after considering everything. Worst comes to worst, Sasuke could always beat Naruto and take his bell after all. I think so, let's try this, the blue-eyed boy said conspiratorially. Well, Sasuke, I'll admit you're different, but you're not any better than the other 2, the porn-reading Jonin said. Don't compare me to those weaklings, the dark-haired prodigy said angry. He was an Uchiha, damn it, he should not be underground. Weaklings, is that what you call them? No, they aren't. Well, Sakura is, but that's more or less your fault. Naruto is probably your level if not higher. Kakashi shook his head. Sasuke needed a lot of work, but for a Bisho he would try to salvage the last loyal Uchiha. That's impossible, the last Uchiha scowled, there was no way the dope was better than him. Impossible or not, he's done it. Speaking of which, I have to go, the silver-haired man said as he turned into a log as kunai impaled him. Alright, let's get you out of the ground. Sakura, I leave him in your capable hands, the blue-eyed boy said, running off. What the hell are you 2 up to? The onyx boy said, irate that a fangirl and the dope had driven off the man. Naruto, idiotic though he is, has pointed out that none of individually can take on a Jonin. He wants us to work together. I figure we help him get the bells, then steal his, the pink-haired girl answered. Might work, I assume you 2 have a plan. The last Uchiha said, swallowing his pride. Yep, here's what we have planned, the green-eyed girl said with a smile. You do know that the others will probably betray you for the bells, right? Kakashi asked as he dodged another swipe of Naruto's blade. Oh, probably, but there are no 2-man Genin teams, it's always 3. So I'm good either way, the blonde answered, dodging Kakashi's counter by the barest of margins. You're willing to work with a team that would betray you for the mission? The one-eyed Jonin asked, slightly stunned. It's my Nindo. Mission first, your comrade second, yourself last. The blue-eyed boy made a vertical slash, only to have it blocked by a kunai. So hypothetically, if your teammates were trapped behind enemy lines and you had to either save them or complete the mission, what would you do? Kakashi asked, slightly freaked that Naruto had apparently started to follow the old Anbu code. How in the hell does he know about the code? It's not even on the books. Naruto, you have become an unknown element. I don't like unknowns, the ex-Anbu thought. Both, the blonde answered flippantly. That wasn't an option, the Jonin sweat dropped. Just like Sensei Scary. I don't believe in no-win scenarios, the blue-eyed boy said, jumping back from their deadlock. It happens, the gray-haired man said, throwing 3 kunai only to have Naruto Kawarimi away. Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. Naruto's voice came from several directions. What? How do you know the voice projection technique? The masked Jonin was slowly starting to curse himself for trusting academy evaluations. I trained under people who remember what a ninja really is, the blonde answered. Oh, what is a real ninja then? The one-eyed Jonin said, trying to find the boy as he had disappeared again. A shadow, Naruto said as he tried to stab Kakashi in the back, only to be met with a log. You fight in an entirely different manner than anyone your age. Should Kakashi had finally gotten the drop on the boy and held a kunai to his throat. Like I said, I was trained by some of the best. We win, Kakashi, the Jinchuruki said with a smirk. Huh? The Jonin said as he was held down by two clones. It wasn't much, but he knew the real Naruto would escape if he didn't deal with them. Now get the bells. The blue-eyed boy called. His teammates responded and both stole a bell, just as Kakashi flared his chakra to dispel the clones. Well, looks like I underestimated you guys, but as it stands only Naruto will go back to the academy, the masked Jonin said, trying to give them the last push to figure out what the test was all about. Yeah, take that, you bastard, Sakura cheered, pointed Naruto, who resealed his sword. You two will be dropped from the program, the Jonin continued, causing shocked silence from both of them. What? Why? Sasuke managed to regain his senses first. Teamwork, I guess. You guys let me do everything instead of fighting with me as a team, the blonde said, shrugging. Naruto is correct, neither of you for a moment really thought about Naruto. In fact, both of you were planning on betraying him to get the bells and send him back. Add in the fact that both of you really don't have the right mentality to be a ninja, and you'll understand why I don't want you in the program, the one-eyed Jonin said with a grimace. He wanted to help Sasuke, he did, but Obito's lesson had to come first. No, we don't, Kakashi-sensei, we got the bells, we did what you told us to, so why aren't we fit to be ninja, aren't we good enough? The pink-haired girl whined. Kakashi-sensei, can I take a shot at explaining it? The blue-eyed boy asked, not really knowing what he was going to say, but feeling he should say something. Alright, the silver-haired man said, wondering what his last student was going to say. You both suck at life and at being human. Sasuke, all you care about is killing someone in power. Power is useless if you lack control. And Sasuke, all anyone needs to do to make you dance like a puppet is say, I'll tell you how to kill that man. Or that man is here. Revenge is a fool's game, and by playing it, you're just doing what that man wants. Yeah, you lost your entire family, but come on, it's been 4 years, either deal with it or get your ass in therapy. You have a huge weakness, one that anyone who knows you well or history can exploit. To make it worse, you're willing to sell out your own team in order to get stronger, the blonde spat. You can't say that to Sasuke-kun. Sakura, the ever-loyal fangirl, shouted. Sakura, you care more about your looks and winning Sasuke as he was some prize than you do about training. When was the last time you seriously trained? Never. You're good at bookwork, which counts for shit in the field. Bookwork ain't going to tell you how to survive when you're trapped behind enemy lines and out Chakra. You have no real skills and can barely perform the basic 3. Seriously, when you get that first C rank, I pity you if you get stuck by yourself because the enemy will have a field day with you. Naruto was cut off. That's enough, Naruto, the masked man said. Today was just full of surprises. Naruto was useful, intelligent and apparently willing to tell people off. Rikamaru-sensei said worse to me when I was training, the Jinchuruki said with a grunt. Who? The Jonin asked. He didn't know any Rikamarus, and he knew every strong ninja in Konoha. Not important. Besides, I'm right, aren't I? No, I went too far, the blonde said, looking at the shell-shocked duo. You were right, Naruto, but I don't think anyone has ever called them out like that before. Still, you guys did get the bells, so I have to pass you. But try not to send your teammates into emotional shock anymore, okay? The ex-Anbu hadn't seen something like this since that time Sarutobi had caught him and Sensei drunk during the treaty negotiations with Suna. Hi, Sensei, the whiskered boy said, an apologetic look on his face. I'll snap them out of it, but you probably shouldn't be here. Kakashi said. Alright, I want to see how teammate did anyway, the Jinchuruki nodded and shoo-shined away. Let's see, how did Tsunade-sama wake up, Sensei, when Kushina said yes to him taking her on a date? Oh, that's right, the ex-Anbu said, nodding to himself. Kakashi reached back and gave the mother of all bitch slaps to Sasuke and Sakura. What? What happened? I could have sworn the dope called us out, Sasuke said, being the first to recover. He did, and although he was a little harsh about it, he was right in what he said. The masked Jonin said. The silence from both parties showed what they thought of that. I don't think Naruto knows how to be subtle in social situations, so don't blame him too much. Kakashi said, trying to form some peace on the team. He didn't have the right to say that to me. The last Uchiha said with anger. Yes, it was tactless, but you're all genin and equals. I don't think Naruto gives a damn about which clan you are or who your parents were, just what you can do. The silver-haired man sighed. Why did everything have to be so complicated with Naruto? He will never be my equal, the black-haired prodigy said, still angry. Perhaps not, but not for the reasons you think. The masked Jonin said. I actually think Naruto surpassed you, but telling you that wouldn't be a good idea, the man thought irked that his intel had been so faulty. I'm going to train the brooding boy said and left. Sakura for a moment looked like she was going to follow, but abruptly stopped. Kakashi-sensei, was Naruto right? Am I really that weak? She asked, fighting back tears. To be honest, he was, but that's not to say that you can't get better, but you're going to have to work hard and overcome your obsession with Sasuke. He needs a friend more than anything. Kakashi wanted to comfort the girl, but really had no idea how he was a ninja, not a therapist, damn it. I have to think on this. The pink-haired girl left the training ground, leaving the porn-reading Jonin alone. Crap, I forgot to tell them where and when to meet tomorrow. Wait, who am I talking to? The silver-haired man said after a few minutes. Shrugging, the man made his way to the Hokage Tower to make his report. Chapter 3. Every day. Disclaimer. I own nothing except Squad 13, and they scare me. Naruto, on the other hand, belongs to Kishimoto. Internal monologue. Scene change. Time. Sakura had walked in a daze after Naruto's brutal chewing out and Kakashi's less than stellar attempt at comfort. Out of habit, she walked into her old classroom. Sakura, what are you doing here? The scarred Chunin asked in surprise. Iruka-sensei. The pink-haired girl gave a start. Yeah, it's me, I do work here after all, Iruka said, chuckling. Sorry sensei, I was just lost in my thoughts. The new genin said with a nervous smile. Oh? Trouble on the team already? The teacher asked. Yes, we passed the test and everything, but Naruto tore into me and Sasuke-kun. He said I was weak and that he pitied me. The green-eyed girl said with a frown. How well, Naruto's never been what we call subtle. Did he say why? Iruka asked quietly. He did, and as much as I want to say he was wrong, I can't. The pink-haired girl said angrily. Why is that? The scarred man asked, eyebrow raised. He told me that I relied too much on bookwork and never physically trained. The red-clad girl said quietly. Sounds about right. I've been pushing for more physical requirements for years, but the headmaster wants numbers rather than quality, the teacher said after a moment. So you agree with Naruto? Sakura had hoped her former teacher would make her feel better, but it wasn't happening. Mostly, intelligence is never a bad thing, but it can't be the only thing, Sakura. You, like the rest of your teammates, have immense potential. But you haven't made any effort to unlock it. The Chunin said with a shrug. So how do I do that? How do I get stronger? The pink-haired girl asked. She didn't want to be weak and she didn't want to be only seen as a burden. Maybe then Sasuke would like her. Through blood, sweat and tears. By pushing yourself to the limit every day and little by little raising that limit. Iruka answered with a smile. Oh, Sakura had expected something like that. But if she truly did that, it would mean no more pursuit of Sasuke. There is no easy path to being strong. It requires sacrifice and work. Are you willing to do that, Sakura? The Chunin asked seriously. That was what it all came down to, didn't it? Was she willing to abandon her long-time crush obsession, true love, in order to get stronger? Sakura didn't know. Part of her said yes, that she had to be stronger. Sasuke had been the #1 rookie and Naruto apparently had become a goddamn machine when it came to fighting. She couldn't be the only weak member of the team, could she? While another part said that she would never win Sasuke if she abandoned him now. I don't know, the pink-haired girl said finally. Well, if you decide, go to this address, it's where Naruto trains usually. Maybe his senseis can help you. Iruka wrote something down on a piece of paper. Sakura took it and made her way home. Sweetie, how was your day? Her mother asked. Alright mom, Sakura said in that tone all teens have when it is not alright, but they don't want to talk about it. So who's on your team? The older woman tacitly acknowledged that her daughter was unhappy. And tried to find out why. Sasuke Uchiha, Naruto Uzumaki and Kakashi Haddock. The pink-haired genin said quietly. Well, 2 out of 3 isn't bad. You stay away from that Uzumaki boy, you hear me? The hate from the elder Haruno was palpable. Mom, Naruto may be an asshole, but he isn't some demon. The green-eyed girl frowned. Naruto had been ignored and hated all his life and he had become strong despite that. How? That little monster should never have been allowed to be a ninja. The older woman spat venomously. Why? Naruto's the reason we passed. I may not like him much, but I will admit he knows what he's doing. Sakura found herself in the odd position of defending her teammate. So the bastard's just waiting for his chance then. The other Haruno said darkly. Not really, all he really wants to do is train and hang out with his friends. The green-eyed girl said, thinking back to Naruto's introduction. It had been perfectly normal, all things considered. That demon should be dead. Sakura's mom said, yelling. That demon is my teammate. The green-eyed girl retorted, raising her own volume to match. Briefly Sakura wondered why she was defending the blonde but dismissed it quickly. You don't know what he really is, the older woman said, grimacing. I do, I was told never to speak of it. I was there when he found out the entire class was. We saw him break down. Naruto is an asshole, but he is not a demon. Sakura said, her own temper reaching its peak. Naruto had to deal with this every day of his life. No wonder he acted like that. How can you say that? He killed all those people. The older Haruno demanded. He wasn't even born yet. The green-eyed girl shot back. The baby died the moment the fox was sealed inside him. The older woman said hatefully. I'm going out. Sakura decided to leave before she did something she'd regret. Sakura, despite her near obsession with Sasuke, was an intelligent girl. As Shino had said, logic dictated that Naruto wasn't a demon. A demon would have already burned Konoha to the ground. Jin's story came back to her. Demons are intelligent, but all they know how to do is destroy. Naruto knew more than that. More than once she had seen him build up his few friends. Hell, he had even managed to coax Hinata out of her shell. She decided to go find him and A, give her a piece of her mind for earlier, and B, ask for help. Complex, too slow. Rikamaru said, cutting Naruto's arm with a kunai. It was light cut, but it sizzled for a moment. Oh. Who the hell decided to put acid on the kunai? The blonde demanded angrily. I think Shin got bored again. My bad. The scarred man said with nervous smile. Why am I always the target? The genin whined. Because me and Jin can kick his ass and he knows it. The bald man answered. So I have to learn how to kick his ass and then he'll stop. The whiskered boy mused. No, he'll just make it so you can't prove it was him. Rikamaru said with a chuckle. Super, the blonde said. Slowly but surely he was learning the fine art of sarcasm from his senseis. So how's the team? The older man asked as they began to fight again. We've got our work cut out for us. Kakashi is as expected, Sasuke is even worse, but Sakura might come around. Naruto said, throwing an axe kick. Still have that crush I see, the scarred man said, pushing aside the kick with his own. Hell no, she's a whiny bitch, but she's a smart one. As long as Sasuke isn't involved she can use her head after a fashion. The blonde said, angrily lashing out with a series of punches. With Rikamaru blocked with one hand. Did someone here to see you? Shin called from the front. Thanks Shin sensei, and I will get you back for that damn kunai. The blue-eyed boy bowed and made his way to the door. You said the same thing last week about the shuriken. The tattooed man said with a laugh. Wait for it. The blonde said with an evil grin. Oh Shin, do you know why my book collection is covered in paint? Jin asked from the upper floor. Bastard Okami, not the face, not the face. The gray-haired man said, squirming as Jin's Jinjutsu took effect. What's up with him? Sakura asked, disturbed. Jin sensei is protective of his books. And a master of Jinjutsu. The blonde said calmly, as if it was an everyday occurrence for a man to be rolling on the floor screaming. Oh, the pink-haired girl said, vaguely wondering what the hell was up with these guys. So you here to tell me off, Sakura? The whiskered boy asked. I was. How do you know? Sakura asked, blinking. That was exactly what she was here for, but how had he known that? Well, even though I can't say I was wrong. I admit I went too far today. The blonde shrugs. Why did you say those things then? The bookworm masks with a raised eyebrow. Because I didn't know how else to say it. Both you and Sasuke have things to work on before you're really ninjas. I never learned subtlety outside of combat, and so I just said it. The blue-eyed boy answers with another shrug. Oh, now she was thrown for a loop. She had expected to have Naruto to be an asshole, but here he was, if not apologizing, at least admitting his faults. Shin, get off the floor. A glasses-wearing man said, coming up behind Naruto. But it hurts, the gray-haired man whimpered. Get off it or I'll tell Naruto where you keep the acids. The black-haired man said calmly. Fine, Shin said and stood up and wandered off, muttering darkly. Hello Jin-san, the pink-haired genin said, bowing low. Hello, you look familiar, the large man said curiously. I was there when you told us about Shikaku, Sakura answered. Ah, Naruto, bring her in and treat her like a guest, Jin said. Yes Jin-sensei, the blonde obeyed and brought them all to a sort of living room. After sitting Sakura and Jin down, the blonde made his way to the kitchen. So you guys teach him? Sakura said, making conversation. Yep, he's our student. Although Rikamaru treats him like a son. The black-haired man said with a smile. So he's learned how to act from you? The pink-haired girl asked. If so, it would explain a bit. Mostly, the glasses-wearing man said with a shrug. Jin-sensei, we're out of tea. Naruto called from the kitchen. Top shelf, the older man shouted back. Hi, the blonde said and went to work. So what can I do for you? Jin asked. I actually wanted to talk to Naruto. The bookworm admitted. That's odd, most people his age don't talk to him. The black-haired man said with faint distaste. He's my teammate, the pink-haired girl said with a shrug. The two fell silent for a time. I guess Naruto ran off his mouth again, didn't he? The Jinjutsu user asked finally. How, Sakura said, surprised. Naruto doesn't know the meaning of tact when talking. To be fair, neither do we. So I kind of expected someone to come and call him out on it. The glasses-wearing man said with a faint smirk. Well, he pretty much called me weak and worthless as a ninja. The red-clad girl shouted. I did, because by my standards you are, Naruto said, returning with a platter of cookies and tea. How can you say that? The pink-haired girl demanded. Because Sakura, Hinata's little sister, could kick your ass. I want you to be strong, the rest of us won't always be there to protect you. The whiskered boy said as he poured tea. I never asked for your protection. Sakura said angrily. No, but you want Sasuke's, don't you? You want him to save you like some sort of prince out of the stories. The real world doesn't work like that. The blonde said with a sigh, offering both Jin and Sakura some tea. What do you know about the world? The green-eyed girl said with a mutter. Sakura, how could I not know? I was kicked out of the orphanage when I was 4. I spent a year on the streets until the Hokage found me and gave me a home. My first memory is being told that I was a monster. I have seen the darkness in humanity. I have seen the light as well. I don't want you hurt like that. The blue-eyed boy said with an amazed and sad expression. I didn't know for Sakura it was an eye-opener. Sasuke had a tragic past, but Naruto seemed nearly as bad, and yet Naruto still seemed to be warm in his own way. Don't worry about other people have had it worse, I'm sure. There were a few who cared and that was enough. The whiskered boy waved off the comment. So you said all those things to protect me? The pink-haired girl said incredulously. Sort of. I want you to become strong so that you can keep yourself safe. You're a comrade, it's my job to help you out. The Jinchuruki said with a faint smirk. Huh? Sakura blinked. Naruto was loyal to his friends, she knew that, but hadn't thought he considered his comrades friends. There was an unwritten code in the Anbu before it was reformed during the Third War. The mission first, your comrade second, yourself last. Jin said quietly. I follow that code, Sakura said. The blonde said just as quiet. Why? The girl asked. Because it's the one my senseis follow. They were the first people to actually train me. You know, I learned how to read properly from Jin sensei. How to cook from Shin sensei. Carpentry from Rikamaru sensei. Sappy as it sounds, my senseis are family to me. Naruto answered. I'm that aloof uncle, Shin's the crazy one and Ricky he's somewhere between a father and grandfather. The huge man said. Well, that explains a lot. The pink-haired girl said thoughtfully. Truthfully, Naruto had always seemed like an idiot, but in the last 2 years his intelligence had seemed to leapfrog. Well, that was a nice speech. What now, girl? Jin asked. I want to get stronger. I don't want anyone to call me weak ever again. The green-eyed genin said fiercely. Okay then, Naruto, you know her best, where should she start? The black-haired man asked. Right now she's a bookworm, meaning her taijutsu is academy level at best. Her chakra reserves are again fairly low, all things considered. This is balanced by a better control than average even for Kunoichi. Taijutsu and chakra building to start. Later she'll have to figure out her own role. The whiskered boy answered with a faraway look. Role? The girl asked. Given what Naruto's told me about your team, do you have the makings of a frontline combat team? The ones who go into the thick of it and come out the other side covered in someone else's blood. Naruto here has more or less been trained as a close combat specialist. So he gets up close and kills the other bastard with a sword or kunai. Sasuke is probably a mid-range combat specialist relying on jutsus to kill the other guy. Jin said after taking a sip of tea. So what am I? The green-haired girl asked out loud. Naruto said you were good at bookwork, so either a combat medic like Tsunade was or maybe a jinjutsu specialist like me. Either would work, but it depends on your temperament. The glasses-wearing man answered. Naruto grunted in annoyance. What Jin-sensei means is that to be really good at jinjutsu you have to be able to understand people fairly quickly without deluding yourself. Medics on the other hand need some empathy, but not too much that it paralyzes them when they kill. The blonde clarified. Jin loved giving these impromptu figure out what the hell I really mean quizzes. Very good. The older man said smiling. You never give a straight answer, Jin-sensei. The whiskered boy said sighing. Will you guys teach me? Sakura asked. The other two looked at each other before they burst out laughing. No, 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 just no. Bad idea, Jin said after a few minutes and wiped a tear from his eye. What's so funny? The pink-haired girl said, getting angry. If there's one thing we learned from training Naruto here is that unless you have a healing factor or a good medic on site, we should have nothing to do with anyone's training. Unless they're already Jonin level, the huge man said, shaking his head. It couldn't have been that bad. The green-eyed girl insisted. Sakura Jin-sensei used a jinjutsu, so I thought I was on fire, Naruto said incredulous. Oh, the girl wasn't sure what to say to that. What did you say to that? Yeah, you don't want to be trained by them. I'll still help you though, the blonde said after a moment. On the fire wasn't that bad. The older man said with smile. Says you, the whiskered boy said darkly. I didn't add the electrocution to it, right? The glasses-wearing man asked. Only because you needed me conscious for school the next day. The blue-eyed boy shot back. We could do it now. Jin said menacingly. No, that's fine, sensei. See you tomorrow, sensei. Naruto bowed and took off. Sooner or later he's going to realize that I can't put those two together. Oh well. The older man smiled. That seemed a little cruel. The pink-haired girl commented, watching Naruto run in fear. Nah, the kid's got a pain threshold like you wouldn't believe. He bitches about it, but he can handle it. The black-haired man said with a shake of his head. How? Sakura asked, perplexed. She had been wondering how her teammate dealt with the hate. Naruto doesn't know how to quit, and perhaps more importantly he's learned to be like water. The older man said with a faint smile. How can a human like water? The pink-haired genin asked nonplussed. Water is shapeless, it adapts to anything while still being water. Humans can do the same, but is difficult, it requires the strength to accept things that you don't like while still doing everything possible to make things better. Jin answered with a faraway look. The green-eyed girl didn't know what to think. You go home now and think about what you want to do. The Jinjutsu user said and scooted the girl out. It was dark now and Sakura wasn't familiar with this part of Konoha and predictably got lost. Hours later she had regained her bearings but saw something unfamiliar: Naruto sitting with a dog. The boy was idly scratching the dog's head. The dog itself was mutt by any description with patchy brown and black fur. I don't know if I can do this, Gobi. The boy said looking up at the sky. Communication between the two passed without words. What do you mean I'm being a chicken? The blonde said annoyed. Gobi just looked at him. You're right. It's just I wanted my team to be a little like my senseis are. They're all friends and they can trust each other with anything. Naruto said after a moment. The mongrel gave a low whine. Well, maybe Kakashi, but he'd choose Sasuke over me. Same goes for Sakura. And Sasuke, I just don't know, probably not. The Jinchuriki said in response. Sakura was hurt but couldn't disagree. She would choose Sasuke over him, but that he thought it was normal and expected that was painful. Yeah, just because I don't need anyone doesn't I don't want someone. The blonde continued oblivious. Lost mostly in his thoughts. Paranoia had taken a back seat to just figuring things out. Yeah, I have teammate, but how often am I going to see them? He said after a moment. The dog yipped. That isn't an answer at all, the blonde retorted. Gobi whined again. No Gobi, no more dango for you. Naruto said, shaking his head. Gobi gave a look that said, you serious? Why am I even talking to you about this? The whiskered boy said with a groan. Gobi gave a bark. Yeah, that's probably it. Damn pride, the blonde said after a moment. No, the mission comes first. I can't let myself get too attached, the old man's counting on me. The blue-eyed boy replied to an unasked question. Naruto? Sakura decided now to break into the conversation. Sakura, what are you doing here? The Jinchuriki gave a start. I got lost, this your dog. The pink-haired girl said, walking up to Gobi, who gave her a sniff. This is Gobi, he's a stray I took in. Manager doesn't really give a damn as long as the rent paid. The whiskered boy said, giving his dog a scratch behind the ears. Naruto, I heard you talking. The bookworm said after a moment. How much? The blonde asked quietly. There was a reason he talked to Gobi after dark, because he was alone then and didn't worry about people showing up. It was a form of therapy for him. Most of it. Why don't you talk to your teachers about this? The green-eyed girl asked softly. Today had been a roller coaster of emotions. Joy, then anger, then fear, then compassion, and now empathy. They don't need to know. I mean, even I don't know what I'm talking about. Naruto said with a shrug. You seem pretty coherent besides talking to a dog, the girl said with faint sarcasm. Gobi's a good sounding board, aren't you, boy? The blue-eyed boy said, giving said dog a belly rub. He's affectionate. Where did you find him? The pink-haired girl asked, taking in the scene. Found the mutt going through the trash. He's kind of like me, so I took him in. Almost killed him because I didn't know how to look after him, Naruto said after a moment with a frown. So despite you trying to distract me, what were you saying earlier? About Team 7. The bookworm persisted. Never mind. Come on, I'll escort you to the academy. Should be able to get home from there. Naruto stood up and began walking. Sakura followed along with Gobi. Hey Naruto? The pink-haired genin asked after a few minutes walking. Yeah? The blue-eyed boy replied. How do you deal with it? All the hate and loneliness? The green-eyed girl asked. I've never known anything else. I have people who care about me and that's enough for me. No use bitching about it. The blonde answered, not breaking his stride. That's it. The bookworm said, incredulous. There had to be more. That. Pretty much. I could be all angsty and shit, give the team a run for his money as Lord of the Brood. But what's the point? If I do that, they win. I'm too damn stubborn to let anyone else win. The whiskered boy said with a shrug. You know, I always thought you were an ass. Sakura said in response. I am, but only to those who piss me off. The whiskered boy agreed. Why did you snap that day anyway? The green-eyed girl asked, referring to the day 2 years ago when he had pulled a kunai on her. To be honest, I don't know. Something just snapped. I wasn't willing to take the bullshit anymore. The blonde answered with a frown. Should we start over? The bookworm asked. You mean pretend the past never happened? Naruto said after a moment. Yeah, the pink-haired girl didn't know why she was doing this but felt that he deserved an honest chance. I'm willing to try if you are. The Jinchuriki said after a moment. Hello, I'm Sakura Haruno. Sakura said, extending her hand. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. The blonde said and shook her hand. The shake was over quickly and they kept walking. Here we are. Be careful now. This part of town ain't too bad, but I'm not sure about wherever you live. Naruto said as they arrived at the academy. I live in a good area, thank you very much. The bookworm retorted. I thought the same thing when I was younger. See you around. The Jinchuruki said and turned around. Go be following him. What the hell does that mean? Sakura wondered as she made her way home. Hokage Tower. So Kakashi they going to fail? Asuma asked jokingly. All of the team instructors were present to give preliminary thoughts. Actually they passed already, the silver-haired Jonin answered. No seriously, the bearded Jonin said with a laugh. I was being serious. The one-eyed man said with a sigh. Most of the Jonin there had the obvious WTF look on their faces. Kakashi never passed a team ever. I see you have finally embraced the ways of youth. My eternal rival, soon you shall be overflowing with the springtime of youth. Guy on the other hand began to rant about youth. Did you say something, Guy? The masked man asked. Curse you, Kakashi. Guy began another rant on cool and hip rivals. So they already passed, how did they pull that off? The cigarette-smoking Jonin asked. Naruto played cat and mouse with me until he was able to catch me off guard with some shadow clones, and the other two stole a bell. And then Naruto called them out on well everything really. The silver-haired man said with a sigh. They all knew what he wanted, and he did want to help Sasuke, so he passed them, but the dynamics were going to be a bitch. What do you mean called them out? Genma asked laconically. Basically he tore through their pride like tissue paper. Pointed out their flaws, all of them. I think he would have ranted for a good hour if I hadn't stopped him. The masked Jonin answered. Was he wrong? Asuma asked, wondering what would have happened with his team if someone had done that. Far from it, but the others didn't take it so well. The silver-haired man said, shrugging. Meaning, Kurenai prompted. Sasuke seems to believe that Naruto is still the class dope and is such completely wrong. Sakura just seemed lost. The masked man said with a sigh. All he wanted to do was his job and read porn, but now he couldn't do that. Will the team work, Kakashi? The Hokage interjected for the first time. I think so, it's going to be hard, but if Naruto can at least be civil it should work. Kakashi answered. Body seems so nice to my team. The Jinjutsu mistress frowned. What do you mean, Kurenai? The leader of Team 10 asked. Just that he found us and acted like a nice guy, but from what Kakashi says he has mean streak. Especially if he just verbally assaults people. The raven-haired Jonin frowned. She felt that words should be used to build people up, not tear them down. Naruto is nice, but he doesn't have any tact, can't blame him really. The Sandaime said quietly. The other Jonins looked down at that. It was a good point, you can't blame someone for not being taught. On to other questions. Hokage-sama, what the hell have they been teaching Naruto? Kakashi asked. What do you mean? The old Kage had innocent expression that was out of place for him. He knows the Shunshin without hand seals, Kage Bunshin, and someone taught him how to force. The silver-haired man said calmly. Forcing was the use of chakra to achieve superhuman speeds. Doing so for long periods of time broke down the joints and muscles, so it was rarely used, but it was powerful. You're kidding, the bearded Jonin said after a moment. Nope, the kid fights like a shadow. Always disappearing at the right moment and reappearing right before he strikes. The silver-haired man said with a frown. It was similar to a group he had fought with in the war, but who? They were old-timers, but had been able to kick his ass anyway. It had been embarrassing. Naruto has been learning from some retired Jonin. The academy wasn't helping him, so he found his own tutors. Now are you all aware that his class knows the truth? The Sandaime asked. No, how did that happen? The assembled Jonin were surprised and frankly a little pissed. Who had violated the law? Ino Yamanaka, apparently in attempt to impress Sasuke, stole the truth from a teacher's mind. She has her mental abilities sealed until she makes Chunin. The Hokage explained. So that's what that choker was for, Asuma mused. Ino Yamanaka had taken to wearing a choker for no apparent reason, but to cover a seal it made sense. Indeed. However, only that class knows and it is forbidden to talk about it. The Sandaime said firmly. Well, my team looks good. The Jinjutsu mistress said after a moment. I'll see tomorrow, but they should pass, old man. The former fire guardian said with a smile. My team will probably fail, another Jonin began, and the talks continued for some time. Later, as they cleared out, the Sandaime called Kakashi over to him. Now what are your true thoughts on the subject of Naruto? Sarutobi asked firmly. I don't trust Naruto, to him comrades are secondary to the mission. Obito didn't die for that. The masked man said with scowl. Indeed, but comrades are more important to him than survival. The mission is important, I can't fault his reasoning really. The old Kage began to light his pipe. No one's comrades always come first, Kakashi said, wincing at the memory of Obito. When you have bonds with them, yes. The number of people that Naruto actually feels connected to is 10 people in a village of thousands. His senseis, not including you. Me, the people at Ichikaru, and 3 genins. Even you were never so isolated, Kakashi. If you want him to put his teammates before the mission, you better damn well convince him that they'll do the same. The Sandaime said, annoyed. What do you mean? Kakashi could count on one hand when the Hokage had actually sounded annoyed. Rightly or wrongly, Naruto believes that he has no place on your team. That all of you won't care about his survival. And when it came down to it he would be the first to die so that the rest of you can live, Sarutobi explained. That's not true, I might not like him, but I wouldn't just sacrifice him. The silver-haired man defended himself. Wouldn't you? Can you honestly say if it was choice between Obisho's remaining family and the boy containing the Kyuubi that you wouldn't choose the former? The Hokage asked quietly. He's not the demon, sensei was better than that. Kakashi had no answer but tried to evade the question. Indeed he was, but you didn't answer the question. The old Kage said firmly. The silver-haired man couldn't answer. If it came down to Sasuke or Naruto he would choose Sasuke, and that explained a lot really. Naruto has been taught by some of the best ninjas I've ever known. He knows that you would choose Sasuke over him. He knows the same is true of his other teammate. He also knows that if Sasuke goes rouge then he will be the one to stop him. All of it you want him to put others before the mission. Then make him believe that you wouldn't do the same. The Hokage gave a long drag on his pipe to calm himself. What? Kakashi was dumbfounded. Naruto not only believed that his own team would betray him, but expected it. Kakashi couldn't quite fathom the mindset required to work with someone and expect betrayal being present in a 12-year-old boy. Naruto has been taught to at the very least see people objectively without emotion. He also knows that you have some connection to the Uchiha. And thus figures that if something went wrong he'd have to fix it. Sarutobi answered. Sasuke would never go rouge, the silver-haired man insisted firmly. I hope not, but if it happens it happens, the Sandaime was unconvinced. Is there anything else, Hokage-sama? The masked Jonin asked formally. Yes, don't blame Naruto for being the way he is and don't let your past cloud your present. The Hokage said quietly. Hi. The copy ninja said and shoo-shined away. Because if you do, Kakashi, you will lose everything. Naruto and Squad 13 were never ones for half measures. Sarutobi mused as he puffed his pipe. Training ground, next morning. The Genins from Team 7 had found themselves awakened by their sensei fairly early and told where to meet and when. That had been several hours ago. Sakura and Sasuke were bored. Naruto was just standing still like a statue. Oh, what are you doing? The last Uchiha asked. His enemy didn't quite fit, but something like that. I am trying to improve my chakra detection. Please be quiet, the blonde said, eyes closed. How? Sasuke was always eager to learn something new. Chakra is present in everything that lives. By learning to read individual chakra signatures, one can be more aware of their surroundings. Even the best ninjas always leave a trace. If one listens one can hear it. Now shut up, I need to concentrate. The whiskered boy growled. Oh, you can't talk to me like oof. The raven-haired boy suddenly found himself face first into the ground. How he had no idea, but he remembered a blur. I'll talk to you anyway, I damn well please. You are not my superior and I will not treat you like some kind of prince. Naruto said, resuming his former position. Naruto, Sakura scolded. My apologies, Sakura-san, I let my temper get the better of me. The blonde was trying to at least be neutral to his female teammate and as such was willing to admit when he messed up. Shouldn't you apologize to Sasuke-kun? The green-eyed girl said caustically. I would if I thought it would help. The whiskered boy said flippantly. Aka. The pink-haired Genin shouted. Hey, he started it. Naruto said defensively. No he didn't, the bookworm said with a glare. I asked nicely, you heard me. The blonde pointed out. There was no need to do that. The green-eyed girl retorted. Alright, I'll give you that, it felt good though. The whiskered boy said with a smirk. So now you're a bully? Sakura asked with sarcasm. Come on, Sakura, Sasuke always acts so superior to us, isn't it nice to see him knocked down for once? The Jinchuriki asked. That's because he is superior, Baka. The green-eyed girl shouted. Why? Naruto asked seriously. Why what? The bookworm was nonplussed. Why is he superior to us? And don't say because he's an Uchiha. That's not a good enough reason. Just because he got lucky being born into a family doesn't mean he's worth anything himself. The blonde answered. Oh, the Uchihas are the greatest. Said Uchiha shouted. No one disrespected the Uchiha name, no one. Last I checked one was a psychopath, the other a genin, and the rest dead. The blonde replied in the same tone that Rikamaru used when confronted by an idiot. Why you? The dark-haired prodigy shook with a rage and was almost ready to kill the blonde. Settle down all of you, Naruto, apologize, Kakashi shouted, arriving on the scene. Sorry Sasuke, the whiskered boy said and then muttered that you're an emo bitch. Sakura heard and gave him a look. The blonde caught it and looked contrite. Alright, we'll do a nice D rank and then do teamwork exercises, the masked Jonin said firmly. This is going to suck so badly, Naruto said with a groan. Why do you say that, Naruto? The silver-haired man asked. You know why? The whiskered boy said with acidic tone. Know why? The one-eyed Jonin said with an eye twinkle. Because D-rank missions are just chores. Naruto accused. They are very important for building teamwork and perseverance, the masked man said, adopting a sage tone to forestall any more questions. Bullshit, teamwork comes from facing something or having a common goal, not pulling weeds or stuff like that. The blonde said cynically. Let's just go to the tower. Kakashi said. Why oh why did his team have to be so difficult? The mission was in an ironic twist pulling weeds, and although there was grumbling it was done quickly. Teamwork exercises were simple. Give the genin some task to complete and make it so that they couldn't do it alone. Naruto had suggested a plan, and although a bit simplistic it would work. Except for one thing, Sasuke Uchiha. The plan had called for the Uchiha to serve as a distraction, while Naruto and Sakura did the work. Why the hell should I let you do the job? Sasuke demanded. The job being a theoretical infiltration mission to grab some important documents. Because Sakura and I know the place better than you do because of the recon we did, that's why. The blonde answered. Kakashi had established that previously. Just because you think you're better than me, the prodigy said before his teammate cut him off. I gave you the most difficult part. Naruto said, irritated. Naruto, Sasuke can't stop. The pink-haired girl said with a bit of desperation. What did I do? The whiskered boy asked, confused. Sakura wasn't sure how to answer that. Naruto's plan was a classic, but it wasn't flawed. He hadn't done anything she could object to. Naruto had divided up the jobs the way any normal genin would have. Oh, I'll do the grab, you be the distraction. The last Uchiha demanded. Now let's be fair to Sasuke. Having spent his life either being ignored for his brother or adored for being the last Uchiha, he had literally no idea how to deal with someone who was equal to him in skill if not social standing. And having very rarely if ever heard the word no for the last 4 years meant that he was operating on instinct. Uchihas aren't known for the instinct, they are known for thinking ahead. You don't know the place well enough. I'm better at infiltration than you are, so I should go. Sakura's my backup if things get hairy. The whiskered boy said, suppressing a sigh. Then leave Sakura behind, she's worthless anyway. Sasuke said, not really caring. She's weak, true, but I trust her more than I trust you, the blonde said, annoyed. It was one thing to think badly of someone, people do it all the time. But most have the sense and tact not to do it in front of the person they dislike. Sasuke-kun Sakura was hurt by that. It was getting harder and harder to justify the way Sasuke acted toward her. Why would you ever want a pathetic fangirl? The Uchiha asked. I don't. But I see more potential in her than that. Naruto said, shrugging. The prodigy dismissed that idea scornfully. Alright, that's enough, Kakashi said, deciding to intervene before someone decided to start killing things. Alright, Kakashi-sensei, later the whiskered boy said and shoo-shined away. Sasuke-kun, do you want to train? Sakura asked quietly. Her assumptions that being on the same team as Sasuke would make him more amenable to being with her were being crushed one by one. Adobe might see potential in you, but I don't. I won't train with weaklings. The dark-eyed boy replied. In another world, Naruto, being a happy idiot, decided to disguise himself as Sasuke for a brief time in order to get close to Sakura. Sakura, having been desperate for any form of affection with her crush, had accepted Naruto's masquerade without question. Said masquerade had Naruto subtly confess his feelings for the girl until his body, like all male bodies at the age due, betrayed him, forcing Naruto to leave. Sakura then used that brief display of affection to ruthlessly quash any thoughts that Sasuke was anything less than perfect. That hadn't happened in this world. Why is he always so cold? I worked so hard to be the smartest, and this is the thanks I get. The girl wondered. Drop his emo ass. Inner Sakura, never a paragon of restraint at the best of times, had her own viewpoint on things. Sasuke-kun, do you hate me? Sakura asked quietly. No, I don't. Would you hate a mosquito? No, you just find them annoying, it's the same here. I save my hate for someone else. The dark-haired boy explained as if it was the most natural thing in the world. Is that all I am to you, an annoyance? Sakura demanded. Her picture-perfect worldview had been shattered yesterday. And Sasuke seemed determined to crush the pieces. You're a fangirl, what else would you be? The prodigy asked with faint amazement. At this the camel's back broke. The 1-2 punch of Naruto's rant and Sasuke's apathy had utterly destroyed her view of the world. No more. I will become strong, not for Sasuke, but for myself. For the first time in a long time, the two Sakuras had the same goal. Become stronger. Go to hell, Sasuke. Sakura screamed at her former crush and stormed off. Sasuke, why did you say those things to her? The Jonin asked. I was just being honest. The prodigy said with a shrug. You do realize that this is a team, right? And that means we have to get along? The silver-haired man asked with a sigh. We passed that damned bell test. The Uchiha retorted, a little annoyed. Only because of Naruto. Kakashi interjected. That if I had been trained like he had, I'd be a lot better. Stupid old man said I didn't need it. The prodigy was categorically incapable of admitting that anyone his age was better than him. Oh? Who trained him? The silver-haired man had been trying to figure that out since yesterday. Some guys named Jin, Rikimaru and Shin. Sasuke thought it was common knowledge that Naruto had been trained by some old-timers. In as in Jin Azuma? The masked man asked quietly. Yeah, I see. Sasuke, I would heavily recommend apologizing to Sakura tomorrow, but I will not force you. Just remember that your team is the only thing you can count on in the field. Kakashi said with a hidden frown. I don't need anybody, the Avenger said coldly. Just like him then? The silver-haired man asked and shoo-shined away. If there was one surefire method to piss of Sasuke Uchiha, comparing him to his brother was it. I am nothing like him. He screamed to the heavens. Or maybe it was to the random birds flying around. Hokage Tower. Afternoon Kakashi, what can I do for you? The Hokage said calmly, looking up from his paperwork. Usually he had one of his shadow clones do it, but he made sure to do the ANS class things himself. Nothing beats the original after all. Just when were you planning to tell me that one of my students was being trained by the most bloodthirsty Anbu squads in history? Kakashi deadpanned. Let me think about that, Sarutobi said, taking out his pipe. Not until he made Chunin or whenever he told you. With all due respect, Hokage-sama, what the hell were you thinking? The silver-haired man demanded. Why is that whenever someone says with all due respect they immediately question my abilities? To answer your question, I was thinking that it'd be a good idea to have Naruto as a competent shinobi. The Hokage said with a chuckle. But those guys are. Sarutobi held up a hand, cutting off the Jonin. Yes, they have a history of blood, but let's look at that history for a moment. They were the ones who helped us win the Second War. They were the ones who helped keep the long peace between the First and Second Wars. And you know what they did during the Third War, right? The old Cage asked chidingly. Yes, but although they never failed a mission, the causalities rates were obscene. Kakashi insisted. And to be fair, they were, as a general rule, no mission that Squad 13 had gone out on had less than 10 kills, and the kill count of the entire team surpassed Orochimaru's and Yondame's combined. Yes, they were, Kakashi, and do you know why? Sarutobi asked with the tone of a long-suffering teacher with a particularly stupid student. No, Hokage-sama, the Konoha didn't start out as the premier world power that it is. Rather, it was just one among many. Right now we have a reputation as a soft and forgiving village compared to others. But we carved our way to the top in blood, Kakashi, and people like Squad 13 just happened to be the ones to do it. The old man continued on as if Kakashi hadn't said anything. Still allowing them to teach a kid, the masked Jonin said quietly. Did they do badly? Sarutobi asked with a raised eyebrow. No, Naruto's probably mid-Chunin without forcing. With forcing, he's just scary. Give him some real attack jutsus, he could probably be a one-man army. Kakashi mused. So what's the problem? The Hokage asked. Indeed, what was the problem? Naruto was probably a borderline sociopath, but that was the thing, borderline. With the right teaching and bonding, Naruto could become a paragon of good or a monster to make Orochimaru scared. It all depended on how he was taught. Now a more important question is, what about your other two students? Sarutobi continued when Kakashi didn't answer. Sasuke has the potential to go far but lacks the right mindset. Naruto's actions make it hard to get through to him. Sakura is a recovering fangirl, so isn't useful yet, but given the right training should become elite. The masked Jonin said after a moment. I see, well, make sure to train them all equally. Oh, and Kakashi? The Hokage said quietly. Yes, Hokage-sama. The silver-haired man's danger sense was going haywire, but he didn't know why. If you ever question me again about my decisions, I'll show you why I am the god of shinobi. Am I clear? As it stands, I am banning you from buying the next issue of Icha Icha. Killing intent filled the room. Hi, Hokage-sama, the masked man said contrite. And to avoid more chewing out left. Well, his inner self sobbed at the loss of the next Icha Icha book. I really need a drink. Oh well, back to the grind. The Sandame said and began reading paperwork. Honestly, Hashirama seemed to have had a hidden fetish for paperwork. That was the only reason to explain why there was so much of it. That or he enjoyed messing with people long after his death. Complex. Naruto, are you here? Sakura called out. It had taken forever to find this place again, but she did it. No, he isn't, girl, what do you want? A rough voice called from the gloom. There, just to talk with him, sir, the bookworm said quietly. Don't call me sir, I'm just one more retired ninja. Name's Rikimaru Goda, the scarred man said, walking into the light. Hello, Goda-san, Sakura said nervously. So you're the brat's teammate. Don't look like much, but Tsunade didn't either when she started out. The bald man said after a long look. You're saying that Tsunade-sama, the legendary medic, was like me starting out? The pink-haired girl said, eyes wide. What? Hell no, for one thing she actually trained. I'm just saying that she didn't look like much compared to her teammates. The snake bastard was a prodigy, and Jiraiya had the look. Rikimaru said with a chuckle. The look? The pink-haired girl said with an eyebrow raised. Can't explain it better than that, but some people, you just know they are going to be one of those legends for good or evil. The scarred man answered. Oh, can you tell me where Naruto is? Sakura said after a moment. I can, but I don't see why. The bald man said, cracking his neck. I want him to help me get stronger. The girl said fiercely. Why? He asked. Huh? Sakura said confused. Why do you want to get stronger? The scarred man asked with sarcasm. Because I don't want to be called weak ever again. Said sarcasm went over Sakura's head. Hey, you really are pathetic, Rikimaru said with a scowl. Hey, you don't even know me. The pink-haired girl retorted. Power for its own sake is pointless. Without control you become nothing more than a mindless tool. The scarred man's scowl deepened. I am not mindless. Sakura said defensively. Sure you're not. The older man dismissed her easily. I had the highest grades in the class. Simply being able to remember things isn't intelligence, just a useful skill. Intelligence is the ability to adapt and use information. Rikamaru said with a low chuckle. Are you going to help me or just keep insulting me? Inner Sakura, never the most restrained being, had fought her way into temporary control. Well, you are the brat's teammate, so probably not. The scarred man said, suppressing a laugh. Rikamaru-sensei, please stop trying to drive my teammate into a nervous breakdown, Naruto said, walking into the room. Ah, good, you're here now, back to work. Rikamaru didn't deny the accusation, but instead changed the subject. Hi sensei, the blonde said, and summoned a gang of clones and proceeded to begin tearing them apart with taijutsu while they used clone swords. He really is strong, Sakura commented as the blonde killed another doppelganger. He is, but don't tell him that. The scarred man said quietly. Should he be proud of his accomplishments? To Sakura it was simple, you got strong and then you can tell people where to shove it. Nope. We are ninja, not goddamn samurai, despite the younger generation's seeming inability to recognize that. Rikamaru said with a grimace. Huh? Pride is the most dangerous thing for a ninja to have. Pride has killed more ninjas than anything else. Pride blinds us to some very simple facts. We are not immortal, we are not invincible, eventually we will die. Pride is the reason I got these scars, that and taking on a knife fighter with a broken arm. The older man said, gesturing to his arm. Alright, can I talk to Naruto after he's done? Sakura asked, unsure how to respond to Rikamaru's cynical statement. Sure. It was a half hour before Naruto took a break. What's up, Sakura? The blonde asked, cracking his neck. I'm done with Sasuke, Sakura declared firmly. That's a surprise, kind of thought it would take him betraying the village to let that happen. The Jinchuruki said, quirking an eyebrow. I wasn't that bad, the green-eyed girl said with a frown. Sakura, you used to beat the crap out of me for talking to you. Because I got in the way of Sasuke-kunya, you were not as bad as some, but pretty out there, Naruto replied with a wry smile. Well, I'm sorry, alright. The pink-haired girl said with a sigh. Looking back on it, she had been kind of a bitch to him. Don't worry about it, I was an idiot back then, the whiskered boy waved off the apology. How can you be so docile about things? Sakura asked with genuine confusion. For her part, she couldn't understand Naruto's cavalier attitude. Well, I'm pretty much immune to being emo by now. Bitching isn't going to fix it, so I figure why bother? The blonde explained. Is that why you act like a jackass towards Sasuke? The bookworm asked quietly. Pretty much. Don't get me wrong, he has had it rough, I won't deny that. But his whole Avenger shtick isn't cool, it's just annoying and creepy. If anyone has reason to get revenge, it's Jinchurukis like me. And if I can forgive and move on, so should he, the whiskered boy said, his face frowning. It's not that simple. Sakura automatically defended her former crush. I thought you were over him. The blonde said with a wry chuckle. I am, but I'm so used to defending him. Erg. The girl said in frustration. There, let it all out. Naruto said soothingly. Sakura wasn't sure why, but that caused some sort of internal dam to break. The one that had held up against her mounting depression over Sasuke and loss of any real friends. It had cracked yesterday, and now it was gone. Tears stung her eyes but didn't fall. Instead, in a trembling voice, she asked. Why? Naruto, why is he so cold? I don't know, but if I had to guess, it's fear and how he's been raised. If Naruto had noticed her state, he gave no sign of it but merely looked away. Fear? The girl asked quietly as she struggled to regain control. Sasuke lost his entire family, right? Somewhere in the back of his mind he's afraid that it will happen again if he gets closer to someone. Kami knows I've had that nightmare often enough. The blonde's grim smile at that went unnoticed. I spent a lot of years completely alone. I have people now, but I always remember what it used to be like. Sasuke is similar, he had a family and they were the world to him, and then he lost them. He just doesn't want to lose anyone. Naruto continued. So that's why he acts that way? Sakura asked with a sniffle. Or he's a colossal jackass either, really. The whiskered boy said with a shrug, drawing a chuckle from Sakura. You know, every time you get philosophical you always ruin it, she said with a faint smile. She still felt bad, but her mood had lightened considerably. I've never been one for introspection, although according to Jin sensei, I am master of confusing the hell out of people. The blonde said with a chuckle. That's not exactly something to be proud of, the bookworm said, shaking her head. Seriously though, what do you want? Rikamaru sensei will only be thrown off by Shin sensei for so long. Naruto asked, reminding Sakura why she was here in the first place. Can you help me train? Just for a little while? She asked. Sure, meet me an hour before Kakashi says to, and we'll get some training in. The blonde answered. Thank you, Naruto, Sakura said with a genuine smile and took off. Playing with two girls, are we? Shin asked, running into the room. Damn it, Shin sensei. The whiskered boy said, throwing a set of kunai at his teacher. That's not nice, the tattooed man said, pouting. Shin. Rikamaru shouted from across the complex. Gotta go, bye. The gray-haired man said, disappearing. He never learns. Naruto said with a sigh. Back to work. Rikamaru said as he ran through the room looking for who had stolen his special coffee. Naruto nodded and began trying to improve his chakra speed limit beyond its original 5-minute limit. What if Naruto trained by retired ninja? Thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.